Welcome to The Big Issue, your favorite weekend current affairs and political analysis program. My name is Godfred, Akoto, Boafo, and this is Citi 97.3. We'll be live on Citi TV. In a week where the finance minister's name has been the dominant piece of news, Mr. Ofori-Atta, the subject of what some have called a mutiny by his own side in Parliament. Over 80 MPs initially called for his removal by the president, led to a raft of emergency meetings at the seat of government, eventually leading to some sort of compromise where they have now agreed that he will complete his IMF program, the budget report, the budget debate, and subsequent issues in Parliament, after which the president says he will accede to the demands or requests of these members of Parliament. So we'll try and figure out what that even means when the president says he will accede to it. But that has been the dominant one. Not long after, the minority side in Parliament filed a motion of censure to remove the finance minister. This is a process that will require them to get 183 members of Parliament to side with them. At the moment, they have around 132 or so signatures. The processes on that one also generated significant controversy and debate in Parliament. We will try and again break that down for you, what is at stake. Then Boafo also showed up. Her case still ongoing in Parliament. Quite complicated for a lot of people. People are asking, what is the difficulty in removing a member of Parliament who has so far shown that she perhaps is not very interested in being a member of Parliament at the moment? The minority side raised their debates. The majority side made their debate. The Speaker ruled, and again, debate. Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu said he was disappointed with the ruling of the Speaker of Parliament. He disagreed with it. The Speaker said, yes, you are entitled to be disappointed and disagree, but we have ruled. And so the recommendations or the report of the Privileges Committee will be debated by the plenary as per the ruling of the Speaker of Parliament. Then not too long ago, about 2 days ago, that was on Thursday, the former President of the Republic also spoke about the economy. Do take note that the president himself will address the nation tomorrow on the state of the economy at the end of the retreat that is currently ongoing at Pejase with members of his cabinet and other interest groups. But the former president also spoke about his thoughts. He shared his thoughts on the economy, what the problems were, and also proffered some solutions. So we will take a look at some of those solutions today on The Big Issue. So it's a full day for us. I'm sure you stay tuned to Citi 973 and also Citi TV in the course of the day. I'll give you other platforms that you can join us on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Big Issue, and as always, it's an interactive program. Do share your thoughts on what you've made of the happenings this week, particularly in Parliament, of the position of MPP MPs to remove the finance minister and his deputy, not his deputy, or the Minister of Finance, Minister of State and the Presidency in charge of Finance, Mr. Charles Edu-Boahen. What your thoughts are on that? 0549 986 996, 0549 986 996, and 0550 585832, 0550 585832. For those of you who want to follow us on Facebook, we are streaming live on our Facebook page, Citi 973, and also Citi TV GH. So you can watch us live. Do share the stream and do keep your comments flowing down there. I will get to them in a bit. If you prefer Twitter at Citi 973 and also Citi TV GH, hashtag The Big Issue. You can also reach me on at East Sportsman. I will read your comments and your suggestions. Just let's keep it civil. And then if you do miss out, just check us out on YouTube, CitiTube, CITITUBE. Subscribe when you get to our channel. Thank you very much for subscribing already. Type in The Big Issue and you can catch up with us as well. So let's try and recap what has been a very eventful week in Ghanaian politics. Some scenes that we have not seen before. Some would say historic scenes where we had some members of parliament, part of the majority caucus, calling for the dismissal of Ofori-Atta and Charles Eduboahin. This was on Tuesday, and Kwame Appiah-Kubi, who will join us later on in the show, Member of Parliament for Asante and Chip North, introduced himself as the spokesperson for the disgruntled majority MPs. They said they had decided to voice their position because several concerns sent to the government had not been heeded too. On the same day, we also had the minority side file a motion for a vote of censure on Ken Ofori-Atta. So we will try and catch up with these happenings in Parliament, and then after that we will also hear from the President. He's spoken about the economy and what he intends to do about it. So let's hear the Parliament debate first, and then we'll try and hear from the President as well. And then later on, we will hear what proposals former President John Dramani Mahama also has.
In line with the current economic situation, about 80 members of parliament from the majority caucus have called on President Akufo-Addo to dismiss the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, as well as the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, Charles Eduboahin, to ensure that the ministry is offered into new hands to ensure some revival of the economy.
We have had occasions to defend allegations of conflict of interest, lack of confidence, trust against the leadership of our finance ministry. The recent developments within our economy are of great concern to the greater majority of members of our caucus and our constituents. We have made our grave concern to the President through the parliamentary leadership and the leadership of the party without any positive response. We are by this medium communicating our strong desire that the President change the Minister of Finance and the Minister of State in the Finance Ministry without further delay in order to restore hope into the financial sector and reverse the downward trend in the growth of the economy. The summary of our concerns leads to a plea that the Minister of Finance, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, and the Minister of State of the Ministry of Finance, Honorable Charles Eduboahin, be removed from office. And notice is hereby served that until such persons as aforementioned are made to resign or removed from office, we, members of the majority caucus here in Parliament, will not participate in any business of government by or for a president by any other minister. We hope that those of us of the backbench and members of the majority caucus will abide by this prayer. We are saying that if our request is not responded to positively, we will not be present for the budget hearing, neither we will participate in the debate.
Just some few minutes after the call by the majority caucus, the minority, led by its deputy chief whip, Ahmed Ibrahim, also urged the majority caucus to offer support in ensuring a vote of censure against the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta.
The minority leader didn't do a press conference. He told the chairman of the business committee that as representatives of the people and as duty bearers, we must move a motion to call for the head of the finance minister. So if our brothers in the majority believe in this, what they should do is to support the call for the minority leader and the motion for the minority leader for the dismissal of the finance minister. I see their press briefing long overdue. If they meant well, the day they went to cabinet meeting, and President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo pointed to them that you want me to sack my finance minister when he was sponsoring my campaign. Where were you? This is what he told them in cabinet meeting. That was the day we were expecting them to come with such a statement. So if they mean well, you need to test majority of parliamentarians to sack the finance minister. When we went to IPU, they told us that parliamentarians must walk the talk. More action and less talk. So it should not be majority coming to make a press conference, the minority coming to make press conference. If you have 137 minority, 137 plus 1 majority, and both sides believe that the finance minister is killing the economy, and therefore he must go, it should not be difficult to mobilize 183 MPs to dismiss or to reshuffle him, if the president is failing to do that.
Later, the minority, led by the ranking member on the Finance Committee of Parliament, Dr. Ofori-Atta, outlined some reasons for the group's vote of censure against the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta.
The first one is the fact that we are seeing a despicable conflict of interest, ensuring that he directly benefits from Ghana's economic woes as his companies receive commissions and other unethical contractual advantage, particularly from the Ghana's debt overhang. The second ground has to do with an unconstitutional withdrawals from the consolidated fund in blatant contravention with Article 178 of the 1992 Constitution and the Petroleum Management Act, supposedly for the construction of the President's Cathedral. The third point has to do with the illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore account in flagrant violation of Article 176 of the 19th Constitution and the PFM Act, as well as the Petroleum Revenue Act, Act 815. The fourth one has to do with deliberate and dishonest misreporting of economic data to Parliament, where he decided to account for expenditure as amortization and certain expenditure as footnote in the financial reporting standard, contrary to global financial reporting standards. The fifth one has to do with the fiscal recklessness, obviously leading to the crash of the Ghanaian cedi, which is currently the worst performing currency in the entire globe.
He also called on the Vice President, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, and the Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, to resign for failing to sustain the economy.
The Vice President must be made to step aside as the chairman of the economic management team because he has failed woefully. Woefully. He does not qualify to call himself chairman of economic management team. Unfortunately, Parliament do not have the right to censure him on that grounds. If not, we would have gone after him first. I think the governor has a role to play in this matter, and he should also pack his bag tomorrow morning. I'm saying that the finance minister obviously is the head of the management of the economy as long as the finance ministry is concerned. But he reports to the vice president. So the vice president has failed in his supervision. He has failed in the work that he has been mandated to do. So he has no business to sit in that office and call himself chairman of the economic management team. I call on you directly, Mr. Vice President, if you are listening to us, resign as the chairman of the economic management team now to save the Ghanaian cedi and the economy of Ghana. We need that.
In his response, the Deputy Majority Leader, Alexander Apenyomaken, attributed the current economic situation to global factors.
It's difficult, especially for businesses and looking at the way our currency is faring. So anybody raising a concern about the state of the economy will be raising such a concern genuinely. This is not about NDC, MPP. It's a general problem we are facing as a country. Mighty UK. People are paying more for mortgages. Almighty UK, Great Britain. People do not have what it takes to even buy essential commodities. So it is not an easy thing. As parents who are supposed to pay school fees, as businessmen who are supposed to pay bank loans, It is not easy. But what we're supposed to do is to have faith and work together.
When the budget was made in November, that last quarter of 2021, it appeared as if we were coming out of the difficulties of the COVID period. That last quarter of 2021 saw a 7% GDP growth rate. The last quarter, I mean the year, but the last quarter. And the clear impression given that the economy was beginning to return to the strengths and the fundamental features that had been a part of our economic history during my first term. And we had witnessed consistently 7% growth rates. We had witnessed relative stability of the Citi and all of this phenomena. But then by February, with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, everything changed. We had these dramatic increases in crude oil prices, dramatic increases in fertilizer prices, dramatic increases in freight rates, in commodities generally. And the end result of it was this big, big hit that our public finances took. And it is, above all, this hit that our public finances took that persuaded me that we should seek the assistance of the fund. One, to try and assist us to return our country to some macroeconomic stability. Secondly, to repair our public finances, and thereby also strengthen our balance of payments.
Quotes. We will later hear from the former president as the conversation proceeds, but let me just introduce my panel for the first part of the conversation. In studio, we've been joined by the Deputy Director of Communications of the MPP, Kamaldeen Abdullah. Kamaldeen, it's been a while. How are you?
It's been a while, Godfred.
Good to see you.
Terrific.
Oh, of course you'll be terrific. You have new leadership. You are playing a big role. Things are looking up for you.
I've always been we have new leadership in place, but and of course, and I'm lucky to be part of the new leadership as well.
Yes. You are particularly close to this new leadership. Don't hide.
Oh, really?
Oh, of course.
I don't know where you're coming from.
I know where I'm coming from.
I really don't know where you're coming from with this.
No, I'm not saying that. I am just saying he has an established key relationship with most of the key members of this new establishment. But he has introduced himself, the Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, legendary student, politician, now doing his own thing in Parliament. Mutala Mohammed, how are you?
I'm okay, alhamdulillah.
Spare parts dealer?
Yes, unknown to the likes of Paul.
It's okay.
I mean, it's important that I make a comment on it, if you permit me even a minute or two.
When we get there, I'll give you time to make some comment on how you managed to get yourself into this situation in Parliament whilst addressing the outcome of the debate between the Speaker and the majority leader, and how you wanted to get yourself involved in it. Always,
it involved every member of Parliament.
Well, let me start with Kamaldeen, because the situation emanated from your side. And from a party perspective, what did you make of that press conference that some members of Parliament from your side held, asking for the Finance Minister Charles Edubuahe to be fired by the President?
Godfred, my immediate answer is great. Great in the sense that we are running a democracy, and we are told fundamentally what democracy actually stands up for. We are also told fundamentally, when you take Chapter 5 of the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, what our fundamental human rights, seeks to espouse in terms of freedom of speech and freedom of, if you like, your thinking and your opinion, as it were. I mean, I'm looking at the angle where we're supposed to be liberal. We're supposed to have that leeway to express what we think our desire and thinkings are, if only that is what is going to bring to shape the good governance or the governance that we have, as it were. Now, you've asked a question from a party perspective, what do I make of it and what do I think of it? And I said, great. Great in the sense that if within a political party, okay, you are able to have divergent views only to judge and collectively arrive at a commonality which will help the cause of the party, it is excellent. But it is when you do not have that and you are cowed into silence that you cannot even speak, you cannot even at least come out to say, look, because of X, Y, Z, if we should go this way, then it will inure to the benefit of us all, and that's be dangerous. So for me, what I saw a growing democracy within the party and also without the party nationally. That's what I mean. Mm-hmm. Because if we have parliamentarians who belong to a political party that is in power, and those parliamentarians are bold enough to come out to say, look, we think that where we have gotten to, the ones steering the affairs of our finances or our fiscal policy should step aside in our view, or should be changed in our view. And, of course, collect signatures to that effect and indicate about 80 of them on that score are in support of same. Now, if we do have them coming up boldly to do this and say it, it then means that, look, the divergent views that we're talking about and the different positions that we're talking about that each of us could hold, then now come to the table to have a discussion to all jaw, and then, of course, superior arguments will then what? Prevail for a common decision to be taken. It is an excellent procedure for us. Why? We have seen the Tories in the UK. How the Liz Truss go? It's because her own people thought that, look, your mini budget you were presenting was actually not tenable. And we will not sit down. We will help you to form a government. We wouldn't sit down for us to be dragged in the mud. They came out strongly. That's how come Rishi is now the prime minister. Okay, we all saw how it happens there. This is what happens in advanced democracies. That will not be a problem at all. Look, let me tell you, this is not the first time a party in government or elements within a party in government are calling for the head of a particular minister. I don't know what happened to finance ministries. Check from 2014. What did NDC do to John Dramani Mahama about Setepe? I mean, it's clear. Demands to the extent that he had to come out to defend his finance minister. He said, look, there's so much pressure on me to sack my finance minister, but I am not willing. Pressure from within, and I can give you examples. I mean, there are a series of, stories along that. Why not? I will do that if you want me to do that, and you can Google it. You can let them check. I don't just speak. I speak with facts. I'm saying that, and I can even mention names. The then regional chairman, the then central regional chairman of the NDC. Please, I'll do that. The then central regional chairman of the NDC, Aluto Jacobs, then were one of those who were calling for the head of the finance minister. Then said Tekwe. I remember that on one of the May Day addresses, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama had cause to say that, look, economic even though so hard, but he believes that the finance minister is indeed doing a yeoman's job to turn things around. And that those calls for him to sack him were needless. To paraphrase him. And a series of, I'll give you the stories. I've intentionally researched it. So it's not like it's the first time that members of a particular political party that is in power or members of the government are calling for the head of a particular minister in it. It's not the first time, except to add that this time round, we've seen it boldly they coming out. They couldn't do that. Okay? And that tells you that how enhanced our democratic pace is. And how enhanced we understand intra-party democracy. Not to say that, look, this is what, if you have your wish, come out.
So the party, you're telling me, hold on, so you're just telling me the party views this one as a great development and encourages it.
You asked for my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I have espoused my opinion to you, which I said that, look, this, of course, contributes to the growth of democracy, both intra-party and inter-party. Why? That so at the end of the day, if you have your decision, that is coming from me.
I know.
But I'm not saying from this question whether the party is seeing it as what I am seeing it, obviously, is a party that subscribes to democracy. And a party that subscribes to with a motto that says a freedom in development. Okay. And I'm saying that if at the end of the day, because I'm aware that Andy Akube even mentioned it, that leadership had actually engaged with party and they had actually engaged with government, as it were, before even arriving at this conclusion, as it were. It is not to say that they got the buy-in of the party or they got the buy-in of government. No. It is to say that, yes, indeed, you still have your opinion. Go ahead and express it. Having expressed their opinion, what followed? The President of the Republic of Ghana, knowing very well that, yes, clearly, I am not an island on my own, even though I am the president. Let me listen to the grievances that they have. He invited, and that's exactly what a leadership should be doing.
Does this
I am saying...
I get you. Does this not look like the MPs going over? And I'm speaking to you because you represent the party.
I know.
At this forum. Going over the party because it got to the point where, as you said, they had established that we had spoken to elements within the party, we had spoken to leadership, and they hadn't received any progress in that regard. So the next forum for them was
to announce
it. So the party was not making way in this matter.
Godfred, I don't know why you want us to narrow down. I know you to be an astute lawyer, right?
No.
Or yet to be a lawyer?
No, I don't want to be.
Okay, you don't want to be.
Like
That's
that.
fine. But I think I'm making this point because I just want to say that, look, you are privy to many of the laws and how the governance structure of this country is. When we try to narrow and zero it down to party level, okay, with this discussion, I think to be unfortunate.
Why?
Very good. The parliamentarians who came out to speak form part of this government per our constitution.
The MPP's constitution?
The legislature. No, I'm talking about the Constitution of Ghana.
Okay.
Article 93 tells you establishes the legislature of Ghana.
Certainly.
And of course establishes also the executive by Article 55 or so. Then also we also have the judiciary being established by Article 125 or so. So it tells you there's some amount of separation of powers that we have agreed to ourselves. Now these MPs are members of the structure of government as we speak. So I'm saying, let us please, I beg you, please. I'm making a point. Let's understand. Even though the constitution says that a party could sponsor a candidate to parliament, which in this case we have done, because if members of MPP were sponsored by MPP to come to parliament and they formed a majority in parliament, of course, when it comes to party level, even our steering committee has the member of the majority leader sitting in the steering committee. That tells you party-government relationship, party-legislature relationship must be established. Again, we also have the chairman and the general secretary sitting in cabinet. That tells you again that government-party relationship also has to be established. That is per our internal constitution. But it is to say that when they spoke as men in government on another arm of government, which is the legislature, being the majority side. They spoke as members of parliament. Of course, I am not to say that they are not members of the party. They are. But to try to narrow it and zero this conversation and to only a party matter, I think that would be unfortunate. Government, why? Because today, I know we will get there. When you take Article 82, for instance, we talk about censorship, how a minister could be censured by parliament. It's clear. It tells you that if parliament is not satisfied with the performance of a particular minister, the framers of this constitution had contemplated the time that such a time, and therefore there should be an opening for that parliament to pass a censure. Are you getting me? The same way, even though party has actually sponsored people to parliament, they also will say, this is government we are watching. In our view, the way it turns the trend, and we think that this particular person being there is not helping matters, we can also call for like what they have done. And I'm saying, right given, you have called for it, what was next? How was it handled? Handled in the sense that because of this tripod, I'm talking about party, government, and parliament relationship, they handled it. The president said, look, call them. Let's have a discussion with them and also with the party. I'm aware that my national chairman and then general secretary were part of these discussions as well. And they have reached a conclusion. Which conclusion is that, look, yes, you have the right to make your demands. Yes, we have listened to you. However, as president, I also have a stance, and I want you to consider it. Which stance is that we are in critical times. So you are all aware that we have all moved to IMF for a negotiation. You are also aware that by law, Financial Management Act tells us that at least in November we should have our budget ready. By law, as it were. So this is so close that I would plead with you to stand your grounds or to stand your stance as of now, so that when we get to a level where we can implement it, maybe after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever, we'll be able to discuss it and see what we can do, as it were. This is also what they agreed on as a people, and we move on. So we are where we are today because, yes, opinions are allowed to be expressed. Again, we will judge on the table, have reached a decision, a common decision, all agree to it, and then we can move on, as it were.
But I'm just saying that the peculiarity of this situation, for a lot of watchers, including journalists, would be that the MPs established that they had tried to engage with your side first, which is the party, which is why I am insisting on the party's views on this. And they did not feel the party had dealt with the issue the way they wanted it dealt with, if indeed the party had even dealt with the matter.
Okay.
And we've heard them repeatedly this week say, we spoke to the party.
Exactly, yeah.
So I guess the question I'm asking you is, how did the party deal with their grievances when they came to you? For it to lead to them feeling like the only way we can make progress is to show just how democratic the MPP is by doing a press conference.
I am aware that the MPs indeed has series of meetings with party leadership.
Yes.
I'm so much aware of it. Let me be quick to add that details of such meetings I do not have.
Certainly.
Okay. However,
I'll grant you that.
They had, yes. So, however, there has been that engagement before even they got to the level. If the MPs have come out to say their side, that the party, in fact, didn't do what they were expecting, okay, that is their view out of the meeting. I'm also aware that the MP said that they had also engaged with, the structures, the powers that be, that is government, and yet still not getting whatever until they coming out. It doesn't take away the fact that we are running a government and not just only a political party. So I'm saying that, yes, MPP might have sponsored Nana Akufo-Addo to become the president. We might have sponsored the MPs to become members of parliament. However, the constitution of Ghana is supreme. When you take party constitution and take government constitution, which one prevails? Obviously, party constitution will be thrown somewhere. It is the constitution of Ghana that will prevail. No matter what, no law in this country prevails when it comes to constitution of Ghana. So I'm saying that if government is in place, the president is actually mandated by Article 72 or so, or 78 of the constitution to set up ministers. It is the president who is mandated, not the national chairman of the New Patriotic Party anyway. You should know that. Now, when that happens, I'm saying 2 scores. Party, because they sponsored, they have a role to play. However, the structure of government is said that party can be put aside and then government will go on, as it were. But of course, because of the synergy that we want, and we want that sanity to move on, there will be some discussions on the table for a decision to be made. So to say that the party actually didn't do much, that is what the MPs think. But I'm also saying that there has been serious discussion, and reason why today we are where we are, because all of them have agreed that, look, let us all move on, no matter what, and see how we can get some time spent for these 2 critical matters to be over. Then, of course, we look at the way forward.
Again, I ask you this. I take your point on the freedom to express their disagreement with what is happening and in the manner in which they did it. But do you also not see the picture of a party that does not have control?
I disagree completely.
Because we do know, if you are a student of our political system, our political parties are very much in control of what happens in parliament by their parliamentarians. It's very rare to have MPs not toe the line of their parties. So to have 80 plus decide to say this is our position on the matter, does it not make the party look like it does not have a certain level of control? Well, even though we still take the perspective of democracy.
You see, again, this question is with all respect to you,
no problem.
It's flawed.
Okay,
given the matter on the table. The party in the first place did not come to say that we are issuing a statement to say that no member of parliament should go on the way they have gone. First place, I'm coming. There's no contention between parliamentarians of the party and then the party leadership. No, there's no contention at all. What is there now is that some members of our party who are in parliament have come out to make some calls.
would they have come out
coming.
if
No,
the party had listened to them the way they wanted to be heard? Which is my question.
You wanted to speak to some speculative piece, whether or not the party told them not to do it, and they went ahead and did it. No, that is where you say party has no leadership. But party didn't tell anybody, don't go and do whatever. Party indeed were consulted by, this is what we want to do. Then party would have to have a discussion with them.
So party
like
said,
I said,
ahead.
details of the meeting I didn't have. But I can tell you there were some meetings that went on before they went ahead.
Okay.
And even if the meetings went on, and that's why I prefix my submission earlier on by saying that fundamentally we all have the right to express our views and then bring out our opinion. I'm not sure as people who want to develop democracy will say that let us gag people from speaking and let's stop them from expressing their opinion. No. But the party is not pulling with Parliament because we said don't do it and you are doing. No, that is not what it is. Parliament have the right, they are in government, they form a legislative arm, and they're the majority, and they have an opinion. They have brought it out, but party says that, okay, let's all discuss it and look at how we can go. Government comes in and we move on. So I'm saying we are decoupling the party from government structure, as it were, even though the party has sponsored people to Parliament, as it were. So leadership actually has nothing to do, this has nothing to do with the leadership of the party being weak. No.
Okay.
They are not pulling on it.
All right. So Kamaldeen Abdullahi, Deputy Director of Communications of the MPP.
It takes objective mind to speak to this. It's not about just coming to see the
President of Imani Africa. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Franklin, morning. Franklin. Okay, so Franklin is not here with us. We'll try and get it. So let me come then to Mutala, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. Your thoughts on what your friends on the other side did? We've heard Kamaldeen's explanation, and he said a lot of strong points. The growth of democracy, the show of it, which is a fair point. But as a parliamentarian, what were your thoughts when you heard some members on the other side had gathered for a president? This is what they were demanding.
Good morning, George.
Well, morning. Good morning.
And
I would give you the 2 minutes you asked for, don't worry. But let's deal with this now.
Good morning, Kama, and good morning to your cherished viewers. If you permit me, as we sit here, the Tamale Central constituency is engaged in the constituency elections to elect constituency executive. Yes. And I have chosen on principle not to be there. Because
you are very strong MP.
Yes, I have chosen on principle not to be there because I don't want to be tagged of supporting one candidate against the other. I wish all the candidates well, and I'm optimistic that at the end of the day, the best people will be elected for me to continue with the good work we are doing in the constituency.
That just means that you are sure your candidate will win. That is why you are sitting here.
No, I'm saying that I everybody is my candidate because they are all members of the NDC. It is my prayer that the best candidates or executives are elected for the good work of the Tamale Central constituency. The kinds of work we do in, we couldn't have done that without the support of everybody. So I decided that I'm not going to be party to it. Of course, I monitor what goes in there. So I wish everybody the best of luck.
It's okay. He doesn't really know.
Oh, come on, then let Mutala flow.
I mean, the man will just
he didn't challenge you on that point, so you let him.
No, but I need to know.
He said I should prove it.
He just showed you something.
It's okay, don't worry.
No, but I need to know. He said, I don't know.
This is in reference to his earlier point about
the president
putting pressure on
the calls.
And President Muhammad made that statement.
Yes,
Yes,
this is public. Which is why I don't want to
say that. Hold on.
This was in the public domain.
Hold on,
President. Just not by MPs.
I'm saying that President Muhammad made the statement that there is pressure on me to sack my minister.
Yes.
Did he make that?
It's here. It's a graphic online. It's there.
Hold on. One thing. Hold on. Please,
it's okay. Come on, you let me engage.
One thing he's saying, and another thing. A media house, anybody publishing, are two things. I'm asking you, did President Muhammad make that statement? If he did, where?
He did.
You see, where did he make that statement?
And I addressed on May Day.
I said, where did he make that statement? You see,
it's okay.
You see,
go on.
I even before.
I want us to stay focused on this. We don't have time.
No, don't talk about time. You gave him so much time.
No, and I will give you the same time.
Please, George, don't talk about time. You gave him so much time.
And I will give you time.
Can I finish? I never interrupted him, not even once. But he started interrupting even before I started even uttering the word.
It's okay.
So I'm saying that you need to checkmate him. You see, I realize that he's even sweating under this chilling air condition.
But he has nothing to say.
But can't you see it?
Look, I know him. Mutala has nothing to say.
Can I make my point?
He will rabble rouse until we finish this program.
Come on,
Come on, just keep quiet. Come on, keep quiet and listen to wisdom. Maybe perhaps you haven't listened to much wisdom for long, but keep quiet and listen to it. Even under the air condition, he's sweating. But you see, the reason why he's sweating is that it's difficult pushing an elephant through the eye of a needle. And I can understand. Now, Kamal is the Deputy Communication Director of the MPP.
Yes.
And he claimed that the party had a series of meetings, these were his words, with the aggrieved members of parliament. And you ask him, what did they discuss? He said he didn't know.
He said it's information that he's privy to.
But he didn't know. A communicator for the party, a deputy. Can I finish? Please.
Okay.
A deputy. Please. Either you are being incompetent, or they don't regard you. A deputy communication director of your party in a matter such as this, a matter that has. Kamal, I'm making a point. It's not personal. Kamal, I'm just taking the words. I haven't even brought in any new word. A deputy communication director of a party, that the party engage aggrieved members of parliament in a matter such as this, and you are not privy. Kamal, then you should check the relationship you have with your party. But you see, when you ask him as to whether the actions of the members of parliament, he said it's great. If that same action,
his personal view.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He said it's great. It helps to deepen our democracy, both internal and external democracy. It's not even intra. He said even without the party, if the NDC had done that, he certainly wouldn't have described it as great.
You can't speak for me on that matter.
Oh, the president himself. The president himself, when he went to Tamale.
This is speculative.
When he went to Tamale, the president himself, your station carried it. And people demanded the removal. He said it was the NDC people who were demanding the removal of the Minister for Finance. Is the president, not even you? The president himself said that it was NDC. I was on a sister program with Honorable Eugene, the Subin MP. And on that program, he made a statement for me that was telling. He said, Mr. President, you claimed it was NDC members who were calling for the removal of the minister. Today, we, the 80 members, are telling you that it is no longer NDC. It is we, the members of MPP parliamentarians, who are calling for the removal of the minister. So the president himself reduced it to an NDC MPP ball game and accused the NDC for being behind the call for the removal of the minister. 80 members. I have just done the calculation. If you have 137 members of parliament and 80 members of that party are calling for the removal, let's do the percentage. Divide 80 by 137 times 100. You are going to get 64 point something, isn't it? Now, it means that almost 2/3 members of MPP are calling for the removal of this man. You see, I'm going to give you 3 Dagomba proverbs, and he's aware of those proverbs, as a basis for my discussion. Okay. The first proverb is that when the chief comes home with a weird haircut, what does he expect his subjects to come home with? Tapeju. That's one. The other one is that you left the door of your room ajar whilst it was raining. Now, after the rain and your room is flooded, then it then dawned on you to close the door. The third one, and I apologize to you, I realize that you are just sipping tea, and those who are watching, that you cannot sleep with an itching anus and do not expect to wake up with smelling fingers. Do you get the
Yes,
problem?
I get you.
Now, all the problems we have today, it is because of the last question you asked. Lack of discipline in the entire gamut of the MPP structure as a political party and a government. When I was on that sister program with Honorable Eugene, he also said that they made several attempts to meet the president and he was not giving them the listening ear. As a matter of fact, they met the majority leader and insisted, and the majority leader assured them that he was going to meet the president. And that after he met the president, they met him and said nothing positive came out of it. And you call this president a listening president? When several attempts were made through their leadership, and that is the relationship that ought to exist between the executive arm and the legislature. He is not just a majority leader, he is also a minister of state for government business. So if they had grievances within the party, he is the only person they would have to discuss those challenges with. And he met the president. They told him, this is the problem we have. with someone within the executive. And he said, I will meet the president. And then when he met the president and they met him, he said, nothing positive came out of it.
But Godfred, do you know this for a fact in the public domain?
All right,
He said it. Oh, let me tell you. Let me tell you where he said it. He said it on Joy FM Prime. I was with him.
Okay.
Joy Prime. I was with him. It's a public statement. You can let your producer Google to prove me wrong. He said it on that program. I was with him. He said that when they met the majority leader assured them he was going to meet the president. And then he met the president. The host asked him what happened. He told us nothing positive came out of it. As a matter of fact, this action occasioned the invitation to the Flagstaff House for such a meeting. So this president is not listening. A listening president, when this thing was brewing, and they wanted to meet him, he would have given them the listening ear. In any case, the legislature is not part of the executive, Kamal. It is not.
I didn't say so.
Oh.
You were not listening to me.
No,
I never said so. I never said legislature is part of executive. Please.
Come on.
I don't want you to take
control of your program.
He won't. That's why I'm here.
He's taking control.
I think his point was very clear, where he tried to establish the fact that the legislature certainly is, in the construct of our democracy, a part
of government.
That's what I
said. Everybody is part of government.
Yes.
So that argument is moot. Okay. We are all part of government. What is a government? Even journalists, your cameramen are part of government. Okay. The legislative arm is supposed, and it ought to be an independent arm of government. Government is made up of the three arms, and the three arms comes with other people. The legislature. You see, we have 275 members of parliament. The reason why we have parliament in a democracy is just to ensure that decisions that are taken for the country is a decision that should be largely supported by everybody in the country. So the entire nation is divided into 275 constituencies. They can gather over 32 million Ghanaians at a particular place to take a decision on either Adwoa Safo or any other person. That decision must be taken by their representatives. That is why part of parliamentary practices, members of parliament should always consult their constituencies when they are to take critical decisions. A critical decision such as this removing or a censure of a minister of state demands such a critical decision to be taken by consulting at least largely the people you represent. So when we are discussing an issue such as this, you cannot say the legislature is part. The independence of the legislature is completely and exclusive. They work in partnership with the executive to achieve an objective. But where the legislature is demanding an action to be taken against a member of the executive, you can't tell me that they are part of the executive. No.
Okay.
There's also a very important point. The NDC position is very clear.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yes, we haven't. That's what I'm saying. I'm just discussing there. Okay. I'm saying that the call on that day when they had the press conference, I had arrived in Parliament very early, and I go to Parliament very, very early. So from the chamber, I went through the main entrance. Then I went through the coffee shop. When I came to the lobby, I realized that they had gathered about to start a press conference. So I didn't know what the press conference, they didn't start at that time. Your journalist was there. And I said, oh, you people, you even have the courage to be holding press conferences when the city is struggling, the economy is in shambles. So when I said that, and I said, the only solution is to get the Minister for Finance out. Little did I know that the press conference was meant to call for the Minister for Finance to either be made to resign or forced to jump. Then two of them, at least, Honorable Carlos Ahenkra, Honorable Eugene Subin, they were like, come. Like they were inviting me, so I didn't know. I went to the office, and we had a caucus meeting. I went for the caucus meeting, and someone showed it. It was Honorable Atuforsen. Oh, this is what the people have done. Then on his phone. So, okay, so that was the reason why they were holding the press conference. Look, there's a proverb in Dagbani, and this will be the last proverb. There's a place called, the proverb says, there's a particular village called Tunayel, and they have a particular fruit. It's so abundant there. Now you are there, you had you have the desire, you have that taste for that particular fruit, and suddenly you are sent to that village. You are craving, that's the word. You are craving for that fruit, and now suddenly they sent you to that village. That craving for that fruit, at least, will be quenched. Is that not the case? Yeah. So we have been calling for the removal of this man, not today. You remember when he was vetted, and I had some problem with my good friend and the brother Okujeto in the matter of the appointment committee when he said he was. I had problem because my view was that per the standing orders, if you disagree with the committee, you what? You rescind. And the problem I had with his position was that he should have rescinded. Because once the appointment of a nominee at the committee level, if it is by consensus, you can't come to the floor and be insistent that you vote, you debate and vote to determine his fate. But even if a single member of the committee rescinds, then the report will be that by majority decision. So the approval of any minister, which is by majority decision at the committee, would then be subjected to debate and in voting. I was convinced because there were several members of the MPP who were willing to vote not to approve the appointment of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta.
Are you sure of this?
I can swear. I spoke with 2 ministers of state. One is still a minister, and another one is no longer a minister. And they were willing to get the man out. So they were angry with our side of the house, why at least one person didn't rescind, so that we subject his approval to debate and in voting. So, and that was my problem. So even when he was going to be approved by voice, I walked out. And I have on this your program.
Yes.
I said the man is the Minister for Finance because he uses Ofori-Atta, you remember?
Yes, you said that.
And I said that if you want to get appointment in this government, maybe perhaps Kamal, go and swear an affidavit and add Ofori-Atta to your name.
That's a bit it's a bit unfair.
He's my brother. Kamal has suffered so much for the MPP. He's my brother, I know. Very sharp guy. And it is not only Kamal, even me. I'm considering even swearing an affidavit so that I can land any juicy contract or any favors. Because that is what is happening. Look, when the MPP won elections in 2016, I don't know whether I said same on your program. I publicly stated that the best person to appoint as a Minister for Finance was Dr. Akoto. And I gave reasons why. And I remember on that program, someone asked why. And I said, look, Dr. Akoto is not my friend. I served in the Finance Committee with him, very sharp individual. And I said he had been the Deputy Minister for Finance. He had been a Minister of Finance at the Minister of State, in charge of Finance, right? At the presidency.
The position Charles Adubuahin.
Good. And he was the ranking member for Finance for 8 years. So the argument I made was that if there was anybody who had an appreciation of the true state of the economy at that time, it was him. I made this argument. And I said, Ken Ofori-Atta was not going to deliver. I made it publicly. Look, I have so much respect for bankers. He's a banker. His deputies are bankers. The GRA boss is a banker. Mix it. And so my position about he not being able to perform well started even before he was approved as a Minister for Finance. So, that is what we were craving for. And in fact, our problem with the press conference they held initially was that they preempted what the NDC wanted to do in Parliament. Because Honorable Haruna Idrisu on the floor indicated to the majority leader that yesterday, I indicated to the majority leader we're going to move a motion of censure. So it means that the idea to move the motion of censure came before the press conference which was held. And I can tell you, almost every member of Parliament in MPP are against the Minister for Finance. I strongly believe even the majority leader himself would want to see the minister out of office. He may not admit it.
Don't make assumptions.
I'm saying don't I have the right to think and make assumptions? I make assumptions based on what I see. Even listening to Kamal's communication, I can tell you that in the heart of Kamal, in the heart of his heart, he knows that the minister must go.
He's not going to communicate.
It's okay.
I told
he's almost at
from point A to Z.
His position is almost at an end. So
you know
carry
who the captain?
Who the captain? The viewing public knows I said a lot. So that's it. So our position was that the man should go. And look, tell me one single success story of this man. But you see, the call should not limit to the man. He said that, he made reference to the action taken by the Conservative Party in the United Kingdom, the Tories. Then we must as well be asking the president to go. First and foremost, the first thing they did was that they sacked our brother who was the Home Secretary for Finance.
Yes, the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah, Exchequer. Our brother. And after that, what happens? Maybe perhaps after the minister goes, the president must go. Every single action of this minister is an action that is taken and approved by the president. The minister did not take a single action that is not approved and sanctioned by the president. Every action. Because every minister worked towards achieving the vision of the appointing authority. In this case, the appointing authority is the president. So if we think that it is justified to call for the removal of the minister, let us not be hypocrites. It is equally justified to call for the removal of the president. And I'm assuring you, I have started talking to some of my friends. We are going to initiate the motion to ensure that the president is impeached.
Hey.
Yes. I have started. Look.
You are not stopping at the...
No. I have asked a simple question.
The vote of censure.
If there is a justification for the removal... what has he done on this program? The man
he's on the show today. Martin is on the program this morning.
Oh, really? You see the hypocrisy. You see the hypocrisy. People members of parliament from MPP have the right to call for the removal of the minister. Yet, Martin Kpebu and others who are not members of the party don't have the right to call. It is within the democratic space that I have the right to call. And I'm not saying that I'm going to ask the president to go through the barrel of the gun. As a matter of fact, what happened in many countries, like Mali, like Guinea, and there were coups, a quarter of it did not happen in Ghana. We are lucky that we are practicing a democracy. So we are not using what the others did. We are using the democratic processes to remove this incompetent president from office. Tell me one single area you can talk of a success story. And I ask Kamal and I ask you, if the logic is that we are calling for the Minister for Finance to be removed because we think that he didn't perform, the Minister for Finance did not do anything on his own. Every single thing he did, it was sanctioned by the president.
Who has now said that?
Give him till... The president didn't say he's getting him out.
No, he says give him till after the IMF and the budget.
George.
And he will accede to their request.
George, I am coming to
Godfred.
that. Godfred, sorry. You see, the economy has mesmerized all of us. We even forget names.
You are Godfred. The man has admitted being mesmerized. He has admitted being mesmerized himself. The man has admitted being mesmerized himself.
The big issue is that the economy has mesmerized everybody.
Are you paid? Is that appointment? You pay for party work.
We are back on the big issue on Citi TV and also on Citi 97.3. My guests are very excited to be here, so do forgive us. Mutala, your point is done. Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Mutala Mohammed. Kamaldeen Abdullahi, Deputy Director of Communications, and private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu has joined us. He says he's organizing a protest sometime in November.
It's just next Saturday.
Yes, next Saturday. Yes. So I'll give him time to discuss that as well. But we are looking at this week in the news, particularly in Parliament, where some MPs indeed called for the dismissal of the finance minister, and the finance minister at the Minister of State in charge of finance at the presidency, Charles Edubuahin. And we've tried to make sense of that, at least in the first stage from a party perspective. Yes, Franklin Kujo, are you with us now? All right, then let me come in and talk. Let me give you a minute to wrap up, and then I'll go to Martin.
But my attention has been drawn to the fact that the statement Eugene made on Joy Prime, that he made same statement on Asempa. So Kamal is public.
No, but he was on Eyewitness News as well. And he spoke extensively.
He asked whether it was in the public domain.
Yes.
For you to attest. So you don't have to say that.
Eugene and Andy said a lot this week.
So
this week they've said a lot.
So the point I'm making is that if there is a justification for the call to remove the minister, not that people hate the minister, they think that he hasn't performed, they think that the economy is struggling because of him. The minister never did anything except that which was sanctioned by the president. So if we think it is justified to call for the minister to be removed, it is equally justified to call for the president to resign. Two, and that's why I agree with like Kpebu when he said that the president should be impeached. We were all in this country when my senior brother and the vice president, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, when he came and said that they had the men, the economic team, the Professor John Boafo, the Ofori-Atta, and everybody was...
That's a very famous video.
Yes, he said that they had the... You see, and if you permit me, I want to apologize to the people of this country for and on behalf of my senior brother, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. That is not who we are as Muslims. That is not who we are as Northerners. That is just him. Because to be very honest, one thing that I prided myself, when I sat with my friends when I was in school, who are Southerners. I said, look, Northerners, the thing about you people will like is that you are not only hardworking, you are very honest and sincere. I think that my senior brother has taken it to a different length, and it has made people to think that, oh, the view that Northerners are sincere, it is no longer the case because they use my senior brother, Dr. Baumia, as a reference point. It is just him. That is not who we are. Because, look, many people are calling for the entire government structure, that is the president, the vice president, and the minister for finance to go. Why are we not saying that it is justified to have them gone? Yet it is only the Minister for Finance who we are asking to go. So what the leaders of the MPP did, and the statement that was issued subsequently, to be very, and I can say this with all sincerity, I have had interactions with at least three members of the
that group
80 who said, look, Mutala, we were not consulted by anybody to take a decision that we agree with the president in the decision he has taken. The statement was issued by the leadership. We were not party to it. And I can tell you, we are going ahead with this. We already have 136 signatories. 136. Now, you need to tell members of parliament to have the censure, upheld. Now, the debate we had on the floor was the admission of the motion. Now, once the motion is admitted, it will then be put on the other paper a week after the day of admission. And then 14 days of the day of the receipt of the motion, you engage in the debate. It is interesting, and I'm waiting to see what the debate is going to be, because there are a lot of MPs I know who are in support of this censure. We want to see how they are going to debate on the floor, because it will now expose them privately what they say and what they say in the open. Look, I know the challenges the leadership of the MPP in Parliament, are facing. The leadership, I can tell you, almost all of them, from what I sense and the experience and the interactions, are in support of the decisions taken. Now, when you raise the issue of discipline, I'll conclude on this. How can 80 members of Parliament from a side of a political party plan to execute something such as this, a press conference, more than half, and then the leadership wouldn't be in the known? And you think that if the leadership were to be in the known, and they knew that they were not in support of it, wouldn't they have prevented them from doing what they did?
How are you going to prevent?
Oh no, but you just said that the whip system is very effective. You just said that. Now, if we want to go by the logic, if the whip system is very effective, they certainly would have been in the known, and more so with the revelations that we got from Honorable Eugene, that they had discussions with the majority leader, and the majority leader indeed had interactions with the president, reported to them that nothing positive came out of it. So it is a case of indiscipline. But that indiscipline is good for our democracy. Look, I'm doing some work, and look, all the literature I've gone through, in fact, plethora of literature, the conclusion is that Parliament is not that independent. In fact, some describe Parliament as a toothless dog. Rubber stamp. In fact, Professor Esban Johnson, one outstanding, professor. If you look at the way they describe Parliament, but 3 incidences have happened in this 8th Parliament. For me, that should change the narrative, particularly in the Ghanaian Parliament. They approved the elections of the Speaker. That the NDC was in support of Honorable Bagwin. The MPP had the numbers to have elected Professor Makokwe. Now let's assume that all the NDC members voted for Honorable Bagwin. It means that at least 1 or 2 members from the MPP defied the whip system and voted for Bagwin. Now you come to the approval of the ministers. The NDC position was very clear. Don't approve certain ministers. Now you had some members of NDC who disregarded the whip system and approved them. For me, in as much as an NDC person, I'm not happy, but it is asserting the independence of the legislature, contrary to the view that is held largely by scholars. Now, this incident is another, for me, huge step.
You see, he has ended up making
I said I agree. Kamal, I said I am agreeing with Kamal. You are not listening. Kamal, you are not listening. I said I agree with you when I started. Maybe I said I agree with Kamal on that score. I agree with you that it is asserting the independence of the legislature. And that is why I went ahead to give these other examples. And you made references to the position taken by many. So in one breath, the MPP may not be happy about this, but it helps to deepen our democracy. Like the approval of the ministers. Some of us were not happy, but it deepens the democracy. It tells you that Parliament is no longer the rubber stamp. In fact, some have argued that if we could find a way to be having a hinge parliament, every parliament, so that you don't have the numbers being huge. The closest we came to this was in the 5th Parliament, when the NDC was in majority, but the difference was just 8. And if you go and look at some of the things they did, there was a huge consensus building. Juxtapose that with this one, there is a huge consensus building because of what? The numbers. So I agree with you on that score, Kamal. I only disagree with you when we said that it wasn't discipline. So I can talk about the indisciplined nature of it, because they should have known. But in the aspect of it deepening democracy, I think that I'm on the same wavelength with you. Right, so the president must go, the vice president must go, the Minister for Finance must go, and I have started the process.
Okay.
I'm still talking to like minds within the MPs.
Keep talking to the point.
Don't have the right to
You would have been, it would be easy for me to assume that you were pleasantly surprised by what happened in Parliament.
The heroes of our democracy.
And then, so your thoughts on that, and then post that, what you've made of the statement that came from the president and the situation that we are currently in.
Okay.
You can put the two together.
Okay, good. So, like you said, pleasantly surprised. It's actually even an understatement. I was like, wow, we've shifted our democracy upwards. We've improved it, sent it a notch or two higher. Yes, look, the MPs dealt the president a mortal blow. Mortal, he's dead politically.
Really?
Yes. What they did, they just finished the president. And see what intransigence can lead to. The president, tintin, very intransigent. Tintin. And this is why he's God. That 95, or even by some accounts, 120 of his MPs say they don't agree with him. They are asking that he fires the excellent Ofori-Atta. He didn't listen. They tried to negotiate with him privately. He didn't listen. And they had to come out in public. Look, the U-turn doesn't take away much. No, because there's still excitement in the air. You see, there's still excitement that, okay, now the MPs can assert themselves. This is the biggest for me. Don't worry about the U-turn. You remember, Legon, they always tell you, he who fights and runs lives to fight another day. And that was okay, because don't forget, from the way the party system works, and Kamal Din is a party man, he knows. I understand they sent the party chairman after them. And we all know that there are some constituencies. In Ghana, you know how they say, if you put this bottle there, once it's in a certain political party, that bottle will win. If it's an MPP stronghold and you put the bottle will win. If it's an NDC stronghold and you put the bottle will win. So let's not forget that. And the context is that there are no jobs. The Constitution says in Article 36 that the president should run a government in such a way that he will create good jobs, a welfare system. Article 36, Clause 1. Maybe we should read it. The president has failed abysmally, so there are no jobs in the system. And so I don't expect the MPs to run themselves aground in such a way that they are dead. That's to say they will have no daily bread. Especially as a society, we are not going to provide them with a cushion. So you know what we can do? I think that the rich people in our society, they should come together, create a fund for these MPs. Yeah, do it anonymously, so that these MPs will know that, look, the next time they strike, if the constituents decide to vote them out at primaries, that fund will take care of them. So please, we are calling all the successful people in Ghana. They should come together. You know, we have Ghana Club 100. That's for a certain purpose. Maybe we can have another Ghana, maybe give it a different name. Ghana Democracy Club 100. The rich in our society should come together. Create a fund, and then give what do you call it, very credible people in our society to manage it. So these people can step aside. We will not know this rich 100. They can create a fund. Let's have CSOs. Godfred, you have also read PhD, so you are also there as a PhD person. Yeah, you also qualify to sit on the fund board of directors. Let's create very credible people in our society. They will manage the fund so that the MPs will know that next time they strike, it doesn't matter what the constituents think. If the constituents want to vote them out, sure, no problem. Come. We will. So you should know how much an MP earns a month and everything. Calculate. Please be bold. Go forward 9 yards. If your constituents vote you out, come for this. You will survive. If we do that, you will see how it will turn out. Because Article 36 Clause 1, let's read. It says, the state shall take all necessary action to ensure that the national economy is managed in such a manner as to maximize the rate of economic development and to secure the maximum welfare, freedom, and happiness of every person in Ghana, and to provide adequate means of livelihood and suitable employment and public assistance to the needy. That is 6-1. That's what they see we have to do. The president has not been able to do. So when you see the MPs backtracking a bit, Master, they tell you that the first human instinct is self-preservation. So now that fortunately in our own society, there are those who have hundreds of millions of dollars. They should come together, give these MPs a cushion, and you will see that they will be more assertive. Because they have wives and children.
But what else is there to lose? You've already crossed that barrier. You've challenged the party hierarchy. You've challenged the presidency.
Yes. And
what else do you fear?
No, now they told them that, hey, Master, if you don't back down, the primaries will vote you out. So that's how they have to. Oh, Master, look, I can swear heaven and earth.
It's okay, come on.
I will swear on my life.
They are allowed to have
I will swear on my life if this such threats were not made to them. I will swear on my life.
Martin,
if that threat.
I know that
yes.
Some of them.
Yes, and what do you expect?
Let's hear Martin.
Yes, and what do you expect? Alternative livelihood. They don't have alternative livelihood as MPs. In such a situation, we expect them to tread cautiously. That's why they've backtracked a bit. So as a society, apart from this fund I'm asking the rich in our society to create, we as the citizenry too, let's get up. Ghanaians, we are too reticent, laid back. You hear people say, when they are making their millions, am I part? But as you are not part, then they are plundering us more and more. You see, Ofori-Atta is made over 200 million from our bonds, contrary to Article 284. You are Minister for Finance, and you are selling bonds to your own company, Data Bank, and then Data Bank as primary dealer, bond specialist, bond market specialist, and then they also on sale in the secondary market. Well, why does this happen? Why? Banana Republic. So family and friends. It's there.
He was asked in Parliament.
He said it's not public. Yes. He was asked in Parliament. Ofori-Atta will have to return that over 200 million Ghana. He has to return that money. He has to return the money. It's part of the demo. Ofori-Atta must return that money.
This is money that was legitimately made.
How? Illegitimately made. How can you be minister? Article 284 says that a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his public interest conflicts with the private, which is the profit he's making at Data Bank. 284. Let's read. It says, a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. So when Ofori-Atta helps in appointing, yes, BOG, they put in BOG as part of the process. But we're saying that if you read regulation 169 of LI 2378, that's the public financial management regulations. 169, it says the ministry shall appoint the primary dealers, right? Honorable, you guys pass it, right? The ministry shall appoint the primary dealers and the bond market specialists. So, what was Ofori-Atta's role as minister? Look at it. Let's read it briefly. 169. The ministry shall approve primary dealers or bond market specialists and institutions eligible to participate in an auction of government securities from banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions. And you go on. Then you go to 165. It's the minister who sells the bonds. 165 is the minister who sells the bonds to the primary dealers and the bond market specialists. So Ofori-Atta is selling to Data Bank. Then Data Bank makes money. That's Article 284 was thrown to the dogs. And please, let's distinguish it. It's different from the matter Brother Jemfi took to Shrine. The first one, the 10 bond.
Buy any bond? Let him
finish.
So if it's Ofori-Atta sold bond to Data Bank,
they are primary dealers. They take and
but not selling to them.
Auction it to them. It's auction to them. Then they put on a margin. I don't know.
The general point he's trying to make is the benefits that have accrued.
Yes, so government gives it to them. They put margin, selling this in the secondary market. Ofori-Atta make millions, hundreds of millions of.
Over 200 million.
Yes, over 200.
Well, when he showed up, I said 150.
It's more. It's more. I'm challenging him. They can come. I'm challenging him.
But when he gets one, did you challenge him?
Oh, I did.
You were there.
We did.
You didn't challenge him.
And I can tell. I'll give another 10 that he was being condescending. When I filed a question wanting to know how much we have generated from the power we sold to our neighbors, He said, oh, somewhere around $140 million a year. And I said, Parliament is in the house of conjecture. He got angry. Okay. Because when I told him I wasn't holding a dagger before him to answer the question, he got angry, condescending, disrespectful to Parliament.
Yeah. Ofori-Atta is such a shame. He and his children will not have that opportunity to spend that money. He and his children will not have the opportunity to spend that. He must return that money. That's conflict of interest. Yes, Article 284. We'll go back to Shraj. 284. Once he's benefited, a public officer should not put himself. Yes, he's admitted in Parliament. It's there. It's a record. It's a record. How can he do this? Family and friends. Family and friends. So you see why the president must go. You put your cousin there so that he can make money for the family. Huh?
That is how you see it.
Yes, and that's how all Ghanaians look. If you see, listen, and those who say emotions, like I said, there was this great philosopher who says, when you see evil and you don't get emotional, then you are corrupt yourself. When you see evil and you don't get emotional, you, that person who is cool-headed about it, you are corrupt yourself. Because you look the thing, you figure, say, by myself, it be me, I go do. So you don't want to. If you see evil and you are not emotional about it, you are corrupt. And so, this leadership we are getting is a reflection of the Ghanaian society. Look, Ghanaians, let's rise. Let's leave aside some of these things. We will not make progress if we don't want to sacrifice for the nation. We have to sacrifice. You can't continue saying you want to build up everything for yourself.
So, in your estimation, what these MPs have done is to open a path that others can follow, irrespective of what the outcome is from this position they have taken. Yes. You see it as a win. Either way.
Double win. 200%. This ministers, please, I'll look for funds so that we will erect a plaque in their honor. No, they've moved our democracy a notch or two higher. Yes, look at it. Because they've dealt the president a mortal blow. There's no way the president is going to recover from this.
This is the second time.
Yes, he will never. They finish.
From a political analysis perspective, what do you mean by they've dealt him a blow? He's 2 years away from.
Now he's lost legitimacy, so now he will only be holding on because physically. So don't forget, in analysis, there's the legal, then there's the moral. So the moral side, he's lost. He's dead. Morally, the president is dead. He's lost legitimacy. If he was a man of the people, he would have resigned.
And a man of honor.
Yes, a man of honor. Thank you. And that's what I've been saying all along last week. Honor. We don't emphasize honor in our democracy. It's just like it's our turn to chop. Yeah, so once we win, we go chop. No, there should be honor. We can't continue this like this.
Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, soon to organize a demonstration called, is it Kumipreku 2.0 or something?
Yes. Reloaded or 2.0, part 2.
So Kamaldeen, you are at that point now. We've heard it, and to be fair to Kamaldeen, everybody ends up at the original point he makes. This is good for our democracy, which is the point that he has always said, that this grows the democracy. And so they take pride in it from at least a party perspective. They take pride in this happening, irrespective of what anybody else is. But following that, you have...
He said he couldn't tell. He took pride. He said
yes,
he couldn't
he
tell.
He said his personal opinion. Yes, of course. It's his personal
his
opinion.
Party is not taking pride in this. They are angry.
You have members of parliament who have now said, we'll wait for the president, and we'll try and make sense of that. But outside of that also, you have the NDC side now saying, so let's do some hardcore politics now. Mutala and his side saying, we don't have time to wait for IMF or anything. We will remove him through a certain process, and they have gone ahead to file that process. Your side disagrees, and it was the basis for a very bitter debate in Parliament. Looking at what your MPs have said and done this week, are you hopeful that they will not stray just based on the promise they have made to the president? Because it does look like this vote of censure will happen. It does look like.
Oh, really? I don't know with what lenses you are viewing this when you say it does look like this vote of censure is going to happen. The fact that, yes, some members of parliament on our side, I'm talking about the MPP, have come out to make certain calls or make certain demands to the president, does not mean that indeed, okay, this vote of censure, which in my view is much ado about nothing. Okay,
well, let me just state the reasons whilst you are at it. So, for those who are listening and watching, the advertised motion is citing 7 reasons. And when I get to you have to explain these reasons. He says it's much ado about nothing. So we are looking at conflict of interest, unconstitutional withdrawal from the consolidated fund, illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore accounts, fiscal recklessness, deliberate and dishonest misreporting of economic data to Parliament, incompetence and gross mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy. These are the 7 reasons.
Those are their basis, right?
Yes.
I mean, let me be quick to add that as at now, we are discussing what we call a content of an A4 sheet.
Okay.
For now. Because as to whether the process of censure has actually been properly triggered and followed with the numbers, that is yet to be known. Because that number that is required by the law or by our constitution for such a trigger to happen, I don't think is attained yet. Okay, but you see, Godfred, I'm happy we are sitting with a seasoned lawyer, and of course, I have so much respect for Martin Kpebu. If you look at a student of law who has read some cases at the Supreme Court, you would, of course, obviously have some respect for him, as it were. But with all respect, please,
he did not be rated.
You see, that is I've not even made my point. Please.
Let him go.
I'm saying I'm happy we are sitting with a seasoned lawyer. You see, and he makes a point, or he makes a submission along my position that I expressed earlier on, which I said every single person per article, per chapter 5 of the Constitution has the right to speak, and the freedom is guaranteed by the Constitution. Nobody will gag anyone from saying what you think it is per our laws. But in the same vein, we have lawyers who, of course, have taught us that, look, work with what structure or the legal architecture we have actually agreed to ourselves or for ourselves. When we sit on radio and on TV and we are quick to come to a conclusion that somebody is culpable for this act, when the person in actual fact is not taken through the process to establish same, I think it's unfortunate if we are people who are legally minded. Very unfortunate. That is why I'm very careful certain time passing judgments on matters. You see, the reason why at the tail end, because he's a lawyer, he's so smart, he brought in this angle of emotions and justified it with a philosopher's thinking. Okay? Because he's so smart, that why should people say, when you talk, they say it's emotions. Emotions are different from what is legal. And I'm happy he knows it and he has distinguished it. Okay? But what is legal stands, not emotions. That's what we should know. Objective minds, morally minded people listening to us will say, yes, you can make the moral argument. Somebody will do the legal argument, subjective argument, as it were. Some call it. Okay? But which one prevails? It is because there's a law against assault. That is why Kamal cannot rise up this morning and slap Godfred and go scot-free. That is why there's a legal architecture. So when we sit down, because I do not like this person because he's blue or he's white or he's black, and I can use my emotions and put the actual thinking aside to run him down, is unfortunate. I am saying, please, I'm saying it's very unfortunate. So when we have a platform like this, and we are lucky to be speaking to many Ghanaians, my view is that, look, whatever you are going to do, make sure you do it and it's intended with the laws of the state. So that I wouldn't sit here and then bastardize or try to run down Mr. Martin Kpebu needlessly. You see, you can call for, please, I'm making my point. You can call for the minister to go. But you wouldn't have your way because the legal architecture will teach you the way to go. And if you're able to ensure that you fulfill all those channels, so be it. It was contemplated. You can call for the president to go. In fact, I took my time and I read Article 69 from clause 1 to 13. Saying you want to remove the president is not like getting up and going to buy gobe to eat.
So it doesn't matter.
It's not just like that. So you are entitled to run into town with your emotions, say what you want to say, but we are also entitled to teach you and direct you to the laws of Ghana, which you are binded and I am binded. Okay? 2. So, you see, Godfred, in as much as you might think that there's wrongdoing, and you might say that Article 36 Clause 1 will say President should provide jobs. If jobs are not provided, at the end of the day, it has done a wrong thing. Interestingly, we have since the inception of the Fourth Republican Constitution, and I'm not even wrong, because as a student of history of this Fourth Republican Constitution, I can tell you, nowhere can you say that a government has been elected and that government didn't initiate at least job creation.
I can tell you one.
That's okay. No, please, nowhere. Whether it's NDC government or MPP government, but we've seen NDC and MPP in the Fourth Republican Constitution anyway. None of them can say that when we came to power, we could not provide jobs for anybody. In fact, as we speak, the tradition of the New Patriotic Party created what we call the National Development, National Employment, Youth Employment Program, which metamorphosed into GIDA and later on now YEA. Lofty, great policy to engage most of the youth who, of course, are not, as it were, working. As we speak today, under Nana Akufo-Addo, even today, as we speak, recruitment is ongoing for the youth in that area. So when you sit down and say no job created, and say try and move on, that is emotion. That is your belief. It's not backed by any evidence. While we sat here, the President of the Republic of Ghana thought it wise and said, look, young men complete schools or leave universities without any hope. Let's see how we can create, if you like, a machinery or a vehicle for them to be on and be trained and likely retained, or maybe after the training, in the near future, they would have acquired certain expertise to go into the job market, which i.e. NAPCO. Today, as we speak, as part of NAPCO, before NAPCO actually rounded up, how many people were retained? No, please, I'm saying,
let him make his points.
How many people were retained? How many people were employed? Many. Okay, you can say you don't like the idea. You can say it wasn't proper, but the person who has benefited from it and watching it this morning knows that at the end of the day has a different angle. So this idea of trying to go around the laws and find fault, President didn't employ people, therefore he must go. Really? Is that what it is?
So you've clearly established that. So there's a difficulty.
Yeah.
In perhaps going that tangent with what Mutala says, but with the finance minister it's different, which is actually the point I want us to focus on.
How is it different?
Because the speaker has admitted the motion of censure.
Okay. Admitting a motion of censure does not mean that you have the two tests as required by the law.
But the law.
But the question,
what does Article 82
no,
say?
but I'm saying,
I'm saying admitting of censure.
But the question,
admission of motion.
But which brings me to the question I asked. Are you not concerned by the fact that looking at what we've had this week, where your MPs,
about 80 of them have
said, kick this man out. They might have agreed with they might have compromised with the president and said, okay, this and this. We don't know the full details of that.
I am not concerned.
If an opportunity presents itself to remove the finance minister within 14 days, you are not worried that they might decide to go that way?
I'm not worried because, yes, it is trite knowledge that some MPs on our side came out to call or demand for the sacking of the finance minister. It's trite knowledge. It is also trite knowledge that after engagement, they had changed their stance to agree that some time be given for certain things to be done. It's also trite knowledge. Now, you brought in the angle of the whip system in Parliament and how parties also have a role to play. Do you know what might have triggered the discussion after they had done the announcement? And how it has gone, and for them now to say that, okay, we are all now on all fours. We agree that we are not going to pursue this matter. Once the president has spoken to us, we've understood that. So now, you want me to say that I am worried because this motion has been admitted by the Speaker of Parliament, which in fact was supposed it would be done anyway. By his mannerisms and his way of doing things, you know he will admit it. Okay, you understand? No. Which in fact I'm saying, no, please.
Don't allow him to do this. Let him speak. You see why I responded?
You have the right to say what you want to say.
You see why I responded to the majority leader, and therefore I could bring Ghana to on this program. You see why?
It's clear, we know. Why?
Allow me.
In the matter, we saw what happened. I'm not speaking against the speaker.
You said that you know.
I am saying that admitting such a motion, for me, is something that.
No, you said you know him by his manners. How can you say
it is predictable? It is very predictable.
Okay, well,
you understand? If you want me to be polite about it, it's very predictable, which was very predictable anyway. So admitting a motion does not mean that the conditions that comes with such a motion to actually be full will be met. And I can tell you that when you brought in the whip system, And I'm saying that yes, our party might have come out to say it, but we have triggered the whip system and to ensure that indeed, even if we have lapses, maybe we have gone beyond such lapses. Now, where are we? On all fours, these MPs and whatever have come to meet with the president, met with the party leadership. They've agreed, look, going forward, this is how we're going to handle this matter. And I'm confident that this motion is much ado about nothing.
Not the much ado about nothing. Are you confident that these MPs will toe the line if they get the opportunity to remove Ofori-Atta?
They will not listen. For now, as we speak, I am saying that when they came out with a statement, what did they say? They gave conditions attached. Andy Appiah-Kubi said, made it emphatically clear that if they were not listened to, then they would also stay off business in the House. And I'm saying, after issuing such, conditions and such, if we want to call them threats, let's say, such threats, okay, haven't they backed down on their stance to the extent the majority even issued a statement on their behalf? Haven't they? They have. So I am saying that, yes, they would have done it. But the whip system, of course, being in place, might have been triggered and then, of course, enhanced. Having had that, the unification that we're looking for on their part is actually being seen as of now. So when you ask me whether I am not worried and whether I am not sure this could see the light of day, I can say emphatically that they will not have the support of the majority side to censure the I can say emphatically that they will not have that.
That is what I was looking for.
It's much ado about nothing.
That is what I was looking for. So Kamal Dean says that they have worked things out in Parliament. Kamal Dean Abdullahi, the party is not taking this lightly. They have put structures in place to make sure that Murtala Mohammed and his side of the house who are looking to do this. And if you read page 24 of the Ghanaian Times, basically the advertised motion has cited 7 reasons. Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who was Deputy Majority Leader, said the motion is defective and does not reflect a clearer position as intended by the Constitution and rules of the House.
And will not be supported by us.
And he also said that it is only the motion which is to be advertised. Basically, the motion did not give the finance minister any room to defend himself. In his estimation, they went back and forth. He said, if allowed to stand, the notice could be a bad precedence. If there's somebody today, it could be us tomorrow. But we must all have a fair hearing. But the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, defended the language of the motion and said he was expecting the deputy majority leader to announce his side joining hands with the minority.
We are not.
If we are to believe Kamaldeen, that holding of hands,
they are disappointed.
Is not going to happen. And he said that what the minority had done was to give the minister and the world the headlines of the matters to which, quote, we will lead with evidence. Our evidence will be beyond doubt. Wait for the facts on the day of the debate. So your 7 reasons. Conflict of interest. Martin has read what the law says. Yeah. Unconstitutional withdrawal from the consolidated fund. Yeah. If this has happened, I'm looking at you, Murtala, as an MP, and I will tell you that you have not done your job.
Why?
How are there withdrawals from the consolidated fund, as you have said, and you didn't do anything about it?
No, we did something. Sanctioned by Parliament.
No, we did something.
That's a good one.
So don't say we did something.
But still that. What did you do?
Hold on.
What did you do?
When they come to that point, God bless you.
When they removed the money for the President Nanado's cathedral, because you can't call it National Cathedral. Okay. That was his vision. I don't know what he ate and slept on that day.
It's okay, you just make the point.
When they removed the money without the approval of Parliament, we took issues with that. And if you ask me what did we do?
Yes.
This action we are taking are part of the reasons why we are taking this action.
But so you cite 3 instances.
I'm saying that what we are doing now, demanding his removal, is part of the reasons. So you don't ask me what did we do. That is what we are doing.
Okay.
And you should be supporting us. If you believe in that anybody who violates the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, anybody who violates it, as the law is clearly, you can't take money out of it.
That's the illegal payments.
Yes, so I'm saying that if you believe in that, join us. I want to see Citi TV. Join hands with us.
We'll not join hands with you.
Why?
We'll cover everything.
Aren't you interested in fighting corruption?
Hold on. So
and I tell I may borrow what Pebu said.
I need you to answer questions.
That if you are not emotional on the issues of corruption,
illegal payments of oil revenues into offshore accounts, fiscal recklessness.
Yes.
How are you going to prove that?
Oh, you see, let me just finish it and I answer it. And I want to answer and tailor it with what Kamal said.
Deliberate and dishonest misreporting of economic data.
These are all political stuff.
Incompetence and gross mismanagement.
Yes. Politics.
How you
see,
do this? Because you need to
deliberate misrepresentation.
Okay.
He provided to Parliament the level of our indebtedness. Some informations were missing. We pointed out to him through our ranking member on finance that you have deliberately refused to add ABCD. He argued. Yet when they went to the IMF, they provided those information. So he lied to Parliament. That's one.
And you'll be showing proof of this.
Absolutely. You see, but let me just respond to what Kamal is saying. When the standing orders and the article says that you must have 2/3 members of, it is not about. It's not before you go into the process.
I didn't say so.
No, please. I'm saying it is not before you go into the process.
Yes, you just explain what the process is for us.
The process is simple. Now, when you bring a motion, the motion must first and foremost be advertised. And then the speaker would then admit that motion.
That's what has happened.
Yeah, so when he admits the motion, it will then be advertised. Then it will then be factored into the other paper. Now, the argument that was on the floor, one was on the issue of the accepting the motion. Now, if the speaker accepts the motion, within 1 week, it will then be in the other paper. That is within 1 week. Now, after 1 week, 2 weeks from the day the speaker accepts the motion, so let's say 2 weeks after that, a week after it is published, then it will then be subjected to a debate. Now, what Honorable Afenyo, and I remember when he said, I said something rather lightly. When he said that the Minister for Finance has not been informed, he wasn't in the house, for such a thing to be done, he should be given the opportunity to be heard, blah, blah. And that, how is it going to be done, sent to him? He raised that issue. And I said, he could just WhatsApp it to the minister. Because there are instances where bills that are brought to Parliament on behalf of the Minister for Finance, that leadership on the side of the MPP, the majority, move those motions on behalf of the minister. So if you can move a motion on behalf of a minister when he was not present in Parliament, you can easily communicate to him that this is the action that Parliament is taking. I get what I'm saying.
Okay.
So what we are doing, we are very optimistic that we are going to get the numbers.
But he's saying that the situations have changed.
Oh, you see, let him tickle himself and laugh. Because even the 80 members, how many of them were at the Flagstaff House? The leadership were there. And we have spoken with some of them. They told us that, look, this was a decision that was taken after some coercion. They invited the leadership to the Flagstaff House and they issued the statement. So whether the statement is issued or not, and you remember, they didn't only say that he should be removed, that if the president refuses to remove him, that they will not participate in any business of this president or this government in Parliament. That's what they said. They will not participate in the budget hearing, nothing. But does it even make sense? You have a football team that is performing abysmally. Then the football team decides that the coach is not good. So let's change the coach. And others are saying, no, let's allow the coach to do recruitment. After recruitment, then you change him. A coach who did recruitment and you couldn't even perform well, you need to sack him, appoint a new coach, and that new coach will do his recruitment. Now, this negotiation with the IMF, and Kamal sadly also raised that issue. IMF or World Bank or the Bretton Woods institutions, they don't deal with individuals. They deal with states. So whether Ken Ofori-Atta is there or not, it changes nothing in the negotiation that is being done. So fire him, and it will bring some semblance. Did you notice one thing? And the speaker said it yesterday. Even the idea of the possible removal of the minister helped the dollar to come down.
Oh,
it's true. The very day. Look. If you say no, it will take the height of naivety to argue that speculations do not inform the relationship between your domestic currency.
Hold on. I'm saying that without the basis,
speculation injects dollar into the system.
I'm saying that the market operates to speculation.
Yes,
that is an established fact by people within finance. I am saying that speculation has a bearing as to how it's a fact.
It doesn't
call any finance person.
So you are saying
I'm saying that alone. But you see, listen to this.
Okay. No, I get the point.
The moment that thing was done,
Projections are
The
different.
moment that thing was, I'm not talking about projections.
I'm saying they are different from speculation in the financial market. That's what I mean. There's speculations, right?
My objection to the point that was made was.
I'm saying that he says that. I'm saying projections are different from speculation.
Speculations affect the CD.
Come on, don't explain.
It's scientific. Speculation. Yeah, it affects.
It does.
Okay. Oh, Kamal unnecessarily interjects, and I was listening to him. I'm saying that speculation has...
You've been doing the same thing, but calm down.
I haven't. That's not fair. Speculations to a very large extent influencing. And even if you listen to finance, the minister himself, in his statement, alluded to the fact that because there's that speculation out there that the dollar is that all contributes to those. But listen to one thing: the moment that press conference was held, that day the dollar fell, I think from 16 to about 13 point something. The moment the next day, the moment they said that they should allow the guy, the minister, to continue, the dollar started rising again. So don't challenge this speculation.
Right.
Now the president should get the man out. You see what it does? It won't help this government anyway. But it brings some semblance of serenity within the financial sector. Show me one single sector. And Kamal said that this minister can boast of a success story. Kamal went ahead to talk about the fact that they created jobs when
that was in reference to your point.
No, in reference
to Martin's point about removing the president.
When you say jobs,
so he was trying to establish the difficulty in doing that.
No, this government hasn't. Government, and I'll tell you the reason. I'll tell you the reason. Why is it that unemployment? You see, let's speak to facts. In 2016, even on the day the president read the plagiarized speech, 7th January 2017, unemployment was 6.8. Today, unemployment per the statistical service, the census they did, 17.4. And in fact, take the 2022 financial the budget statement. Youth unemployment is 12.6. So if you claim that you have created jobs, did we go or did we come? How come that the unemployment rate could rise at that level? The only reason why we have this unacceptable level of unemployment is because you have been lying to the people of this country. And the reason why I say this is because when you talked about NAPCO, you have the NAPCO boss, you have the Minister for Finance, you have the President himself given 3 different figures as to the number of people NAPCO engaged. The NAPCO boss said that they recruited.
I don't really want to focus.
Oh no, yes, because he was.
Because it's not a key component
because
of the conversation.
Why didn't you tell him that he shouldn't raise it?
I did tell him. You see what I'm saying? That
but he raised it. Wouldn't it be fair?
No, he raised it within a certain context, and that even has to do with the removal of the president, which is not on the table right now as we are speaking.
I am raising this in a context that the minister who manages the finances of this country should go. It's part of the justification.
Yes,
so let me finish with the point, please. He should go. He talked about that. Why is it that the minister, either the minister or the NAPCO boss or the president, is not telling us the truth? And one of the reasons why we have raised it is because misrepresentation of information to Parliament. You just read it. The minister said that they recruited 95,000 people. The president said 100,000. The NAPCO boss on TV3 said 117,000. 2 of them should be lying to us. Maybe perhaps they need to convene another meeting at the Flagstaff House to determine who they should give up to the people of this country, that this person is not telling us the truth. So all the indications, the reasons why we are raising this, they have been misrepresenting facts under oath. Because when you present a budget to Parliament and the information you provide, it is not in sync with the right information, we challenge you. You said, no, that is the right information, only for you to go to IMF, presented the very information we were asking you to add. And that failure to add that was deceit. So
quickly, just a point. So will he be required to be present during the debate?
Certainly.
I'm just asking.
Yes,
he has to be there.
In fact, even the speakers in his ruling on the debate between Honorable Afenyo Markins and Honorable Haruna Idris, the speaker says, look, there is always a formal communication between Parliament and the executive or ministers. Through this communication, that is why anytime you file the question, the minister will come and answer questions. He said that he will be communicated to, and he was still making. I said, look, if you want it to be faster, give me his number. I was up the adverse of it on the other paper on the day of the debate. That will be about 2 weeks' time, because having accepted this, it to be published 1 week after the day it was received. So, and 2 weeks after the day it was received.
I thought so. They should be left with it. So the 2 weeks after that counting. I thought it said upon receipt. By
No, the day he received it. You know, it will be published within a week's time.
Okay.
And then 2 weeks. The 2 weeks starts from the day he received the thing. So that will be 2 weeks from now. The debate would end on the debate.
Oh, but then you are basically also within the timeline of the president.
No, what the president is doing. No, what the president is doing is a trick. You know what they are doing. I will tell you why. I'm justifying. Oh, come on. I'm justifying
30 seconds to justify that.
I'm justifying why.
And then I go to Martin to wrap this up.
Because you raised that issue. I'm justifying why I say it's a trick. The budget will be read in November.
Yes.
The president is not asking for only the IMF negotiation. The president is saying that they should allow him to finish the IMF negotiation and the budget so that he will even consider. He's not saying that I'll fire him. Let's get something very clear. Now, after November, Parliament will be on recess. So we may not have the capacity again, assuming we're to stand down this motion of censure. After November, Parliament will be on recess. So it means that the man will be there till next year. And by which time they would have finished threatening the members of Parliament. Some of them threatening them that they will lose their parliamentary elections. That is what they are doing. So we don't have any time. And it doesn't matter what the members of Parliament from the MPP says or what the leadership says. What matters is that we are going ahead with this.
And you are confident you will get numbers.
We would have loved that. But per Kamal's own analysis, we must follow what the standing order says and the Constitution says. And that is what
that's what it is.
And we are very, very confident.
That's what it is.
In fact, we are very, 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 very confident.
Okay. All right.
That we are going to get voting this man.
Let me read some messages on the matter.
Getting your wife to fry cocoa for you to eat.
Babamu,
brother.
Okay. Couple of messages. Let me start from the top. Jones says, good morning. The courageous action by the majority members is a clear indication that the president has lost control and further goes to cement the fact that the government of Akufo-Addo has failed and need to go with Ken. Citizen Francis holds a different view. He says the issues in the motion the minority released are fruitless. Some majority members not being happy with the finance minister does not mean they will support this hypocritical motion of censure against the finance minister. Okay, so it says, good morning, Godfred. Why are you confusing party and Akufo-Addo administration? In fact, it's because people, including media, and their inability to separate a part from a person's admin that party people, either parliamentarians or food soldiers, are forced to support their person in private if they disagree. Because at the end of the day, your party will be dragged along. If we begin to separate the two, we may see more of what the NPP MPs did. Kufuor admin, Mahama admin, Akufo-Addo admin. Remember, people are members of a party before it forms a government. Well, Kwame just and say, under normal circumstances, what you're saying is true. But if you look at the practice of our parliament, you have the general secretary of party sitting in cabinet meetings. So that separation that you talk about is pretty different. It's pretty difficult to have in our circumstance.
No, but you can be a member of parliament. A member of parliament is not a member of the government. Yes, he's representing a political party.
Yeah, he's even looking at this. He should just say that his Kwame J, who's the constituency chairman for Kaikui South, says he wants a situation where we say the administration is the administration, it is not the party.
And that is why they call for insulating the appointment of the president's more than 50% of his members of parliament in parliament. I mean, ministers. I mean, that is why that call for me is necessary. So that we assert the real independence of the legislature.
Well, somebody is also very unhappy. He says the request for the finance minister to complete this negotiation is a clear indication that the president is considering his closeness with him rather than the generality of Ghanaians. In any case, how can a minister who doesn't believe going to the IMF be a better person, be the person to negotiate a deal
for someone to come and implement?
Walanyo Nakwetia says he thinks that it would have been good for the finance minister to resign just to show that he understands what Ghanaians are going through. Godfred and Citi, one of these days you need to get a technical person from GFIM, CSD, GSU, or their likes, or industry professionals to explain how the primary dealer and bond market specialist thing works. In as much as I'm disappointed how the economy has run, there are a lot of untruths about how Databank and Blackstar have made their money. The worst.
But the minister himself admitted on the floor.
Let me read the message, please.
The minister himself.
Let me read the messages,
please. The minister himself admitted.
So much untruth.
No, but the minister himself admitted on the floor. So why would anyone
our
challenge?
audience are part of the program. Let me read the message.
People have alluded
Come
to
on,
emotion.
hold on.
They told you it's
It says,
emotion. Emotion is
The
good.
minister himself admitted on the floor that they have made profit.
That's why
So what is he talking about? The minister himself on the floor of Parliament is on record admitted his
Okay. So that
even if it is $1.
If it's true, and you know very well that it's true, and you know you can trigger a process to have this, like Martin Amidu did in the case of Woyomi. Trigger the process.
I was Martin Amidu member of Parliament.
So you are a good citizen.
I will take another break. Gentlemen, I'll take another break. Gentlemen, Mutala and Kamaldeen. Let me just.
And you cannot trigger.
Kamaldeen, let me take.
Being disruptive to
Let me. Kamaldeen, let me take a break. I'll hear from Martin when we return on this motion of censure against the finance minister. And then we will delve into some economy because the former president has been speaking, seems to have some ideas on how we can resuscitate the economy. He praised the Government Eaters Association. The Big Issue will be right back. Welcome back. You can share your messages as well. 0549986996, 0550585832, 0549986996, and 0550585832. Listening to The Big Issue on Citi 917. Also watching us on Citi TV. We are streaming live on our Facebook as well, on our Facebook pages, Citi TV GH and Citi 973. And later on, you can catch us on YouTube as well. And you subscribe to our channel. Do subscribe, CityTube, CITITUBE. So, Martin, let me have your take on this censure vote, and then we can discuss these economic alternatives that the former president has put out this week.
Okay, Godfred, I beg you 1 minute on the comment that the one who brought it about this primary dealers and bond market. Look, the gentleman, what did he say, Kofi? Hey, he shouldn't ask for a can of worms to be opened, though, because we haven't come to the part where enterprise has taken over the insurance business. We haven't come to that part. So, Kofi, the thing, Ofori-Atta, yes. He shouldn't open that can of worms, so he should be careful. Does he really understand what's going on the ground? Enterprise, now to do government business, if it requires insurance, it's enterprise or you don't get the contract. Enterprise has run aground SIC. Business people are complaining. And what is Kofi talking about?
Well, he's saying that
business people
perhaps
are
we need to explain how those entities work and they operate.
Yes, so now let's come to that side.
It's not true.
Yes, he can. When the minister himself has admitted the money that they made. Look, listen, Edu Boyin's company, around 2018, was that when it was formed?
Yes.
Black Star Brokerage. When was it formed? Small. And then because of the influence peddling, they were able to get bigger trades. Then they got high volume. Company just for 2018 or so. Small company. Then within a short time, by the time they were appointing the bond market specialist in 2021, then Black Star Brokerage had qualified. How? Is that how we form companies and then within a twinkle of our eye? Do you know how they got the trades? It's the influence peddling and all that. No, let's not. The more you open, if you argue, and the industry people is calling, trust me, I speak with industry people. If we call the industry people and we allow them to speak freely, of course, cameras, they will not talk. But if you can put them behind a veil and then you disguise their voices, Master, you will run away. The things are complex. It's mafia, Godfred. I'm telling you, some of the things they tell you and say, Martin, look, be careful. You know what that is? So the 150 million Ofori-Atta admitted in this in Parliament. Listen, when I ran it by one of the industry players, he just laughed at me and said, "Oh, Martin, you are a small boy. You don't understand this business." That's why he said, you don't understand this business. He's made several hundreds of millions. Why are we being taken as fools? So, Godfred, I challenge you, maybe give 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Go talk to the industry people. Muffle their voices. Do it in such a way we will not know who is talking. You will hear. Put them behind a veil. Top secret. Let them talk and you will see the rot. There's more. Some complex deals with the bonds, flipping them in a very illegal manner. Master, you have no idea. The guy asking for that, hey, he doesn't know why he's calling for. I have spoken with industry people. So if he does, yes, let them come. It will help.
Your thoughts on the censure?
Yes. So the censure, what we say is that then the minority has done extremely well. They are now, well, not now, from time to time, they do the needful. That's the right thing that they have to do. Okay? That's the right thing that they have to do, because, you see, tomorrow when our history is being written, there will be a statement that in the midst of all this gargantuan conflict of interest, apart from the majority saying what they did, the majority also filed a motion for the censure of Ofori-Atta and Boafo, right? So it doesn't matter, Godfred, it doesn't matter even if ultimately the majority doesn't support the minority on this and the motion fails. It doesn't matter. What matters is that eventually the minority rose to the occasion. So it will show that they attempted. If they had the numbers, they would have removed them. And that's what matters. So it will also go down in history that, yes, Ofori-Atta, there was an attempt to censure him, except that it failed. And that's very, very important. So it's a signal. It's the statement. The symbolism behind it is extremely important. It's not about finally winning. No. It's just the fact that, yes, they saw that they triggered it. And in the same way, Honorable Murtala will support you to the hilt that you take steps about the impeachment proceeding. The impeachment, you just need 1/3 to start. Yeah. The impeachment, you just need 1/3 to start. The minority have the numbers. So if the president is not going, the minority should start. It doesn't matter that you lose.
So you are still on that time,
yes.
That the president must also...
as for the president, he must go. By Article 69, Godfred, let me read Article 69 to you. It says that when the president has taken steps which are inimical to the economy of Ghana and prejudicial to the security of the state, he must go.
But somebody has to prove this.
Yes, but the Citi is there. The Citi is there. When we began the year, at most it was 6 cedis, 40 pesos to the dollar. Now it's anywhere between 14 and 16 Ghana. So that is it. Actions inimical to the economy of Ghana and prejudicial also to the security. No economy goes with security.
This has to be triggered in Parliament.
Yes, that's the one, Honorable Murtala. So let's read. It said 69:1. The president shall be removed from office if he is found in accordance with the provisions of this article. A is about the oath of office. If he's acted contrary to it. Let's go to B. To have conducted himself in a manner which is likely to bring the high office of president into disrepute, ridicule, or contempt. The Citi being the worst, now we are the laughing stock of the rest of the world. That will qualify. Then B.
Insecurity, even in this
yes, B. Or prejudicial or inimical to the economy or the security of the state. So our Citi has collapsed. The currency, Atitia Pansan, look at the prices of goods, more than doubled. More than doubled. People are starving. People are dying. Did you see the Galilee guy, the Kasua guy who committed suicide? Others are going to follow this in suit. People have lost their capital. People are starving. People are dying. And the president wants to continue. That's personal aggrandizement. When you've run the nation aground like this, you just say, oh, people of Ghana, I'm terribly sorry from the bottom of my heart. I didn't know I was not up to this job. Forgive me. I resign. Then Baumia also follows. The phantom wastegate. My husband is a economic wastegate. Where is Samira? She should come and talk again. My husband is a economic wastegate.
But the husband is not economic for you.
So, Godfred, then this is how we end. Journalists are suffering.
Godfred.
Teachers are suffering. Lawyers are suffering. Lecturers are suffering. Kayaye are suffering. Farmers are suffering.
Women
are suffering.
Everybody is suffering.
Godfred.
In dealing with the economy, I'm moving on.
It's not economic.
I'm moving on.
Oh, you are moving on.
Oh, come on. Everybody has gone the full gamut on this one. Everybody has.
So that Martin tells you the basis for he calling for the impeachment of the president
but he's not the only person
because he thinks that the Citi has fallen.
No, the insecurity.
Because he thinks that
come on, economic challenges is a security challenge.
We'll talk about
the
problems.
Has he read the entire article from clause 1 to 13?
You understand?
I know he knows and understands the president. However, I'm surprised
it's okay.
This is what he's choosing as a basis.
It's not a key part.
No, let's get serious, man. People are dying. Gentlemen, Under John Dramani Mahama, we went through, we're planning exactly for 4 years. People
That's
are
not true.
in
That's
their
a lie.
houses.
That
4 good years.
That is a lie.
The alternative
that is an
we
absolute
were looking
lie.
for.
That's a
We
lie.
were planning to
That
that
is a
level
lie.
4 years.
Mutala Kamaldeen.
With generators
I want to move the conversation on. So, former President John Dramani Mahama says the country's economic woes can largely be blamed. Can be put at the doorstep of the finance minister. So he contends that the EMT has failed. He addressed the ailing state of the economy in building the Ghana we want. He also urged the Akufo-Addo government to do away with some redundancies that have marked his administration. So we'll hear the former president. I will talk to Doctor, assuming once that is done, and then we will move the conversation forward. So let's hear snippets of that speech by the former president.
I was there.
But we have listened to him already.
I was there.
No, I'm not playing it.
Government should also begin work to amend the enabling legislations of state-owned enterprises like the Ghana Cocoa Board to prohibit them from engaging in non-core quasi-fiscal functions. Cocoa Board is currently, as Dr. Atufosin said, reeling under a debt of about 14 billion Ghana cedis, from a situation of about 1.5 billion cedis in 2016. Currently, Cocoa Board owes in cocoa bills alone almost 14 billion Ghana cedis. And this has made Cocoa Board severely distressed and is putting additional strength on government finances. No wonder, and this is an aside, no wonder cocoa farmers are not getting the incentives they should get. Their prices for their products are not being increased in a timely manner. And so it's becoming unprofitable to continue to maintain their farms. And so they are selling the farms to Galamsey operators. The astronomical debt has crippled Cocoa Board and made it impossible for them to pay bills due to license buying companies and their suppliers. And so today, farmers are selling their cocoa to license buying agencies, and they don't have the money to pay the farmers for the cocoa. This debt overhang has affected the produce buying company, which is currently unable to pay the salaries of its workers. Indeed, similar liabilities within other state-owned enterprises amount to a staggering almost 30 billion Ghana cedis, and is impacting the entire public debt. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest sources of suffering and difficulty for Ghanaians today is the cost of fuel, which has skyrocketed to the highest levels in our history due to the rapidly falling cedi and its effect on everything else on the market. Something needs to be done. Ghana is making huge windfall from the sale of crude oil, royalties, taxes, payments, surface rentals, and others. Section 41 of the 2022 semi-annual PIAC report confirms that an amount of $731 million was realized from Ghana's oil resources in the first half of 2022 alone. And as an aside, while petroleum prices are increasing because we're importing finished products, we are having an increased revenue from oil because the prices on the international market have gone up. Unfortunately, we cannot leverage it because our production has fallen. I'll come back to that later. So this amount of over 700 million is equivalent to about 8.7 billion Ghana cedis and surpasses the total projected petroleum revenues expected for the whole of the 2022 financial year, which was estimated about some 6.6 billion cedis. So we've achieved more revenue from our oil sector than we anticipated in the budget. And if you check the budget statement, that's on paragraph 253 of the 2022 budget statement, presented in Parliament in November last year. The government can therefore apply some of this huge windfall that is being received from the increase in oil prices to cushion the other side of the equation in terms of price of petroleum products, in order that we can cushion consumers. And in addition, other revenue handles have witnessed significant positive outturns. Let me give, for instance, another example. The 2022 fiscal data report from the Ministry of Finance reveals that for the first 2 quarters of the year, the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, that is the PSRL, alone has accrued over 708 million as compared to the projected target of 269.3 million, which is...
So that was the former president addressing some issues with the economy and outlining his own proposals. So let me bring in an economist at this time, Dr. Patrick Asuming. Dr. Asuming, good morning. It's always a pleasure to have you on The Big Issue. Thank you for your patience this morning.
Good morning. Good morning to viewers. It's good to see you again.
Always a pleasure. Your thoughts on the comments by the former president on the economy and some of the proposals. We can highlight them one by one, the ones that you think are a bit different from what we've already heard, and the ones that interest you.
Okay. So I think the first thing I want to say is that, the former president touched on a wide range of issues and focused on different aspects of the problems that the Ghanaian economy is facing. So he spoke about the deficit and then the currency. And then also along the line, he spoke about the need to restructure the economy. So I think broadly, he covers the areas that you think that if you address, it really should help the economy. I think the question comes about the specifics and the details of his proposal. So if you start with the proposals on how to deal with the deficit and the debt. So I think he spent a lot of his time talking about, expenditure control measures. So, and I think a lot of the proposals, the specific proposals that he put forward are things that I will broadly agree with. So he spoke about the need to reduce expenditure by cutting the size of government. And it was not just about reducing the number of ministers. He also suggested that the special programs that we've created, the special secretariats with additional expenses, it was important to cut them. And I think it's something that, I will strongly agree with. And then also reducing the size of the president. I think one area that I wished he had added is that we should also try and cut the perks that we give to government appointees and other public officials, because it's also an additional way of signaling that, given the circumstances of the time, we are not just asking the general public, Ghanaians, to make changes to how they are living, but public officials are also in consistent with the times we are going. They're also making some changes. So I think that would have been important. But what I thought was missing in terms of addressing the deficit and the debt is that there was little to nothing or nothing at all on the revenue side. And I thought that was a big omission, because we cannot, we can't solve our problems with government finances by only cutting. We can't just cut expenditures. We definitely need to raise more revenue. So I think it would have been helpful to hear from him what specific things he would like to see, or what specific suggestions for raising additional revenue in addition to all the measures that the current government has put in place. So I don't know whether it means that he's satisfied with the revenue measures that are currently ongoing. But, I think not to talk about the revenue side at all, for me, I think that was a big omission.
Okay.
Then, when you talk about the measures to deal with the currency, so many economists, we've always said that we have to do the structure of the economy. We have to look at how we do a little bit more import substitution and also boosting domestic production and then diversifying our exports. I think broadly he spoke about that. It's just that the specifics, it was some of the specifics that were lacking. So he did speak about balancing domestic production with import restrictions. But you see, the domestic production and expanding domestic capacity has to precede any attempt to restrict import. Because if the domestic sector is not ready to pick up any slack and you decide to restrict import, what you are actually going to do is just going to make prices rise faster. So the question is, these are discussions and things that we've spoken about several times. So I think what would have been helpful is a little bit more specifics about, okay, we should grow, we should eat more domestic rice, eat more domestic yam. This is something we discussed a lot. What are we going to do differently? Because both the previous government and the current government have always spoken about the need to boost domestic production, do a lot more import substitution, and do a lot more exporting. What the problem has been is the specific things that we've done to ensure that we make progress on this front. So I think, while the general point about the need to do these things were on point, I just wish that there were a little bit more specifics on what will be done differently, so that the measures that we've done, that hasn't really brought us the success we wanted. We are not just going to repeat them. Because when you talk about preaching feed, conceptually, it's not that different from doing planting for food and jobs and then one district, one factory. Operation feed yourself and operation feed your industry. Conceptually, it's the same things that we are trying to do. So I think what would be helpful is diagnosing why Operation Feed Yourself had problems later on, or why one district, one factory has had problems, or why planting for food and jobs has had problems, and coming up with specific things to address those challenges. Because I think the broader framework or the broader general ideas are well communicated. Then I also liked his suggestion encouraging Ghanaians to consume more domestic things. I think that one is important. But that comes with two sides. The other side of that is, for me, where we are now, I think government action in that direction will make a much stronger and more immediate impact. So if you take public procurement, and he did speak about public procurement and the need to reform public procurement. But you see, if you look at public procurement only as a means to save revenue, then you are missing it. Public procurement is a very big fiscal policy tool for growing domestic industries. So for instance, if you say you want to expand domestic rice production, we are doing school feeding, that is struggling. So what you expect to use public procurement for is to guarantee farmers a market. You see, when you do that, that is the most direct way for the government to influence domestic production, apart from providing or cutting red tape and improving or reducing cost of production. In terms of guaranteeing markets, that is one of the most direct ways. So I just wish that those dimensions had come in. Because you see, it's okay to say Ghanaians should eat what has been produced locally. When Godfred and I work and we earn our salary, and we go to the market, it comes down to our choices. And for a country that we have been socialized for all these years to think that what is coming from abroad is superior. So that narrative is harder to change than simply the government saying that for certain things we are going to procure domestically. And we are going to use that strategy to help domestic producers. So generally, I think in terms of the broader points that the broader policies suggestions that he made, you generally come for them. It just comes down to the details and the specifics.
Now, just to ask you a few things, you spoke about the absence of the revenue side. But he seemed to go big on the savings, because if you look at some of the numbers, it does look like, in his estimation, the savings could make up a major part of the shortfall in even domestic revenue. So, for instance, he talks about the collateralization of statutory funds for taking more loans that need to stop as one of his proposals. So I'm just trying to get the numbers for that. So, for instance, he says on page 15, government must stop collateralizing statutory funds for the purpose of taking on more loans. The wanton collateralization has been unhelpful. It has limited the financial space of the statutory funds, including GET Fund and the District Assembly's Common Fund. Now, if you are in this country, you know that the DACF normally is in arrears by 2 quarters. This time it has been in arrears for, I think, 4 or so. It's 3. Okay. Government should desecuritize these funds and add. And if you listen to the numbers, it says, we estimate that if the proceeds due ESLA, GET Fund, Road Fund, etc., are freed from the burden of collateralization and IPP payments are renegotiated, government would have access to a total of about 16 billion Ghana cedis in 2023, 17.6 billion in 2024, and 19.4 billion in 2025 from these funds alone. This would significantly ease the cash crunch, which has crippled many sectors, resulting in government's inability to meet such basic obligations as supplying food to secondary schools and providing textbooks for basic schools. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so broadly, I think this is really about, allocation of the revenue handles that are already coming in, and not necessarily about bringing new revenue. So I think, for me, my point about new revenue handles will hold. In terms of this collateralization and the current governments seem to have, or they have a completely different philosophy from, in terms of how to use known or predictable revenue streams from the previous government. So that it started with the earmarking bill, and then one of the first things they did was to decide to cap the earmark so that there's more discretion for the finance minister in terms of how to use the revenue. I think the issue with the collateralization, it cut both ways. It's a good argument to say, instead of waiting for revenue to trickle in, we are going to find a big source of revenue that can complete a big project, and then we use the inflows as they trickle in to offset or to repay the loan. Fundamentally, from where I say, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the extent of collateralization has gone too far, and that one has become problematic. Then the other thing is we have to question the vehicles and the means and the transparency with which these deals have been carried out. So I think, for me, that's the problem. The fact that we are doing this too many times, we are taking almost every public revenue side, we are trying to do this collateralization. I think that one has gone a little bit too far. And don't forget that the Japan deal and all, they all sit within this framework. So it appears that this is something that is an approach that the finance minister. Frankly, it's not quite surprising. If you look at his background as an investment banker, this is something that when an investment banker is a finance minister, you could expect some of these things. But we have to question the process and the transparency with which some of these things are done, and then also whether we are getting value for what we have. But regardless of that, we still, even if we roll back all this collateralization, it won't be enough. We still need some new revenue sources. And it would have been good to hear what specific areas that the former president would have suggested.
Finally, I want to look at he mentioned the BOG, and he says there must be a stop to central bank financing of government above the 5% threshold. The current printing of money to finance government's deficit is further fueling inflation. Now, this is a matter that keeps coming up, although the BOG has also consistently denied that it is printing money in the technical sense of printing money, because normally people just go to the point that, okay, like, we've gone to the mint to print new money. That is not what printing new money means in this framework. It means something else. But this criticism has come. We've heard the World Bank, for instance, talk about the BOG and their strategy. The BOG seems to have come up for significant criticism recently, just basically in its handling of the economy on the monetary side.
Well, I think, it's obvious that the BOG has been financing the deficits more than the limit. I think when the last time this issue came up, and then the BOG put up an explanation. If you look at the way the budget lines were reported and the storylines that the BOG gave, something didn't add up.
Yeah.
Because there was a part about the IMF, the
speculation.
Oh, we seem to have a problem with Dr. Patrick Asumin's network. He's basically gone through a lot of the items for us. So, yeah, let me come to... I'll start with you on this, Mutala, since it's your party leader. And from the event, we are told presumptive presidential candidate for the 2024 election. We will see how that goes when you go for your primaries. But he has brought his proposals forward. Dr. Sumin says he agrees with most of them, but the fact that he didn't touch on new sources of revenue, which is key, because that also seems to be a big part of the conversation we're even having with all our external partners. Where does new money come from in terms of revenue? Every budget time we discuss this in Parliament, you people go there, you don't add property tax and the rest, you don't want us to do it.
The Gombes have a proverb.
So you've educated me.
The Dawuni and Dana, they are brothers. Then the Dawuni is the Dana is the smallest and the Dawuni is the strongest. So if you want to get into a wrestling contest, you should land the weaker one first before you start asking of the bigger one. You haven't landed the weaker one, then you are asking of the bigger one. So Dawuni is the weakest and Dana is the strongest. So you should land the Dawuni first before you can
deal with Dana.
Tweet the one that you have control, the one you can do immediately. Do that first. So I agree with Doctor that yes, we need to look at other revenue sources, but the one you have control, you have collateralized them.
But revenue mobilization, you have control.
I'm saying the one immediately you can. I mean, if you want to talk about other revenue sources, it takes time, it takes money.
Okay, I get the point.
To be able to come out with all of those things. So I'm saying that the one you have control, do that. So I look at that one. I was there. I was in the hall, and the former president couldn't have indeed presented the most outstanding solutions to some of the teething economic challenges than he did. And I'm not surprised that Doctor agreed with almost all the things he said. He raised some concerns that he didn't see much detail. And of course, a presentation such as that, you wouldn't see much detail. The much detail would come in the form of a manifesto. I'm a participant in the NDC manifesto drafting for the 2024 elections on the Committee of Trade and Industries. And Doctor, in his presentation, he said whether he is satisfied with the revenue mobilization as we have under this government. Certainly not. There are certain flagship programs that this government has introduced that they would have been very good programs, but they are recklessly, abysmally, and unintelligently implemented. One of such is the 1D1F. To be very honest, the NDC should just do away with the 1D1F as it is being implemented under this government. Mind you, the idea of 1D1F came when President Mahama commissioned the Commander Sugar Factory. Then President Nana Addo was somewhere in Western region, and he said he's going to provide every district with a factory. He deceived Ghanaians into thinking that the kind of factory he wanted to provide was the likes of the Commander Sugar Factory. Because that was something that came first when he said he will provide every district with a factory. What they are doing, and per the communication we have had even from the Minister of Trade, and even those who manage the 1D1F, they are doing virtually what every government does. It is the responsibility of every government to create an enabling environment to businesses to strive. The reason why you can describe the 1D1F as a failure is that when you industrialize, your economy grows. And once your economy grows, job opportunities will be created. Is that not the case? 1D1F, the economy is not growing. Job opportunities are not created. So clearly it's a failure. And the reason why it is a failure is because of the way it is implemented. Do you know that once a company agrees to come on the 1D1F, that company is given tax exemption for 5 years. That tax exemption for 5 years, before that is given, that company must give a proof that I'm going to create this number of jobs. Unfortunately, that is not being done. I'll give a classical example. Before Parliament rules, I don't know, your reporters were there. Myself and at least one of our colleagues, we were on the floor. It was a heated debate. This government gave tax exemption to 2 companies, 2 foreign companies in this country, to the tune of over $11 million. And the criminal aspects of it is that those goods were already in Ghana. Because those companies agreed to be put on 1D1F, over $11 million. The question, and why we had problems with it on the floor, was that that company didn't provide to Parliament proof of the jobs they have created since they were put on 1D1F. That was never provided. You had the MPP who were defending and arguing that that particular exemption be given. Because for you to be on 1D1F and for you to be given such exemption, you should provide that I have created this number of jobs. I have a friend who has a friend with another foreigner who lives in this country. That foreigner has a company. And the foreigner said that the friend told him that, oh, we used to pay about $5 million for import duties a year, a minimum of $5 million. Now they are no longer paying anything because they have agreed to come on 1D1F. And then my friend asked him, so how many jobs have you created? And he said, create what jobs? So clearly, that is a leakage. Imagine this 11-point-something million, over $11 million. The number of jobs that could have created, that over $11 million could have taken care of free SHS, could have taken care of jobs created under NABCO. Some of the beneficiaries are crying, they haven't been paid. That would have taken care of them for years, because over $11 million, that is not small money. Calculate over $11 million by cities. Multiply that by about 10, just even say 10. And now it is about 14 cities. Multiply 11 million by 14. You have been talking about almost 130 million Ghana cedis. And that could have taken care of some of these expenses. So, Doc, one of the means by which the NDC can do that, me as someone who had the privileged opportunity to have served the Ministry of Trade and served the people of this country as Deputy Minister of Trade, this 1D1F as it is will be thrown somewhere, because it is not yielding the needed results, the jobs are not created, the economy is not expanding, okay? Yet we are denied the revenue that the state would have been gotten. This is just one company. And this evidence is there. It's in the hands that it happened on the floor. Over $11 million. Now, how about other companies who didn't come to Parliament and who also enjoyed that particular, tax moratorium more or less? Because once you agree, they give you 5 years. What we had, and that one I don't have any evidence, but we had.
Don't say
no,
it.
I'm saying what we had, that some of these companies, they come on the 1D1F, enjoy the tax exemption for 5 years. By 5 years, they form new companies, and then they move in. So it doesn't even help the economy. Now, he also raised another issue.
Speed this up for me a bit, if
yes.
you can.
So he also raised another issue of the balancing production to import. Look, President Mahama demonstrated that before. In this country, our pharmaceutical companies, the WHO indicated that the products produced by our pharmaceutical companies in this country met the WHO standard, and that they could compete with any other pharmaceutical products anywhere in the world. What visionary President Mahama did was that he tried to find out, so if our pharmaceutical companies, the product they produce, meet the WHO standard and they can compete anywhere, what was the problem? Now, as a result of the interactions with them, it was very clear that they didn't have the capacity to expand, so they could not even produce to feed the domestic market let alone export within the sub-region. So President Mahama wanted to find out what the problem was financing. The NDC government under President Mahama gave direct financial assistance. Some of them took as much as 5 million Ghana cedis at the time. And as a result, they expanded, and within 2 years, they increased the products that they were. They indeed ventured into producing other medicines that they were not producing, and they were able to produce to feed the domestic market and left some for export. This was what President Mahama did. Now let's come to food. And I say this as a farmer. As I talk to you, I engage in all manner of farming. I have rice farm, I have soybeans farm, I have maize farm, and I have cattle. And Kamal knows. Kamal, I don't know whether he engages in farming. This year, and I predicted this and I'll predict this again. If you don't take time, this year there will be hunger. And the reason why there will be hunger is very simple. A lot of people moved from production of rice and maize
to
soybeans.
Yes.
Because they could not afford to buy fertilizer. And soybeans, you don't necessarily need fertilizer. If you apply fertilizer, you get high yield. But even if you don't apply fertilizer, you still have some of the maize. I am telling you, many people. So soybeans is not our staple food. So if people are moving from maize, from rice to soybeans, and many farmers that I knew, there were some too who reduced the number of acres they were going to engage in because they could not afford to buy the fertilizers. How come that in 2014-2015 fiscal year, we were able to reduce the importation of rice into this country by 40% and increase the production of, you can check it, and increase the production of local rice by 60%. Look, you can check it at the Ministry of Agric, check it at the Ministry of Trade. I am speaking to something I know. We were able to reduce the importation of rice into this country by 40%, increase the production of local rice by 60%. It means that there were measures.
What were the measures?
You look at how much you were doing in 2013, 2012, then you juxtapose that with 2014. So you were able to calculate that between 2013 and 2014, this was how this was what the amount of money we spent in importing rice. Now, if you reduce that in 2014-2015 fiscal year, you calculate the percentage. So we're able to do that because there was a direct correlation. And to prove that, 2016, we were spending $500 million importing rice into this country. $500 million. Today, we're spending over $2 billion. $2 billion. Now, you can get, the Minister for Finance himself stated, check the 2022 financial statement. And in fact, in 2018, you had the then Deputy Minister for Trade, Honorable Ahonka Lenzi, who in meeting with the Taiwanese business community, wanted to impress them and said that we are spending over $1 billion importing rice into this country, and about 60% of that money, we import rice from Taiwan. And I took him on at the time. So between 2018 to now, over $2 billion importing rice and poultry products into this country. Why wouldn't your city suffer? It's a simple law of demand and supply. What it simply means is that every year, we have to look around to get over $2 billion to import something we have the capacity to produce. Look, and I know someone, a colleague of ours, and he knows, Honorable Tanko, the former MP for Yaba Kubori. Tanko has thousands of acres of rice, and it's the paddy rice. Honorable Akando has hundreds of acres of rice. Honorable Adongo mentioned them, even the former minister for Interior, Woyongo and Co, they all engage in. Avnash is a rice processing company. They have stockpile of rice in their warehouse. Yeah, the state is not interested in buying them, even to the extent that NADMO, the rice they distribute to flood victims, is imported rice. I was on a program with the NADMO PR, and he admitted the rice, and when we had flood victims, the rice they distribute to flood victims is imported rice. Now you have school feeding. School feeding, my understanding of that concept was not that there's someone at the Flagstaff House.
You have 2 minutes.
He is in charge, or she is in charge of providing the food for school feeding across the country. Why? Decentralize it. Look, the staple food in northern region may be different from the staple food in central region. So, and what they produce there, it will be cheaper as compared to what they import. Now they want to give a party girl money to chop, and therefore, that party girl is given the entire nation. So even when the state is not able to pay, she finds it difficult to supply because it's huge. But if you had decentralized it, even if you want to give it to party boys, give it to them at the regions. So that in northern region, they can know that they can get some food, yam and others, which they can supplement. But you provide rice for them. And the reason why they always do business with this rice importer is because of the cut. Let me conclude on this. And then I'm concluding on this because there was a journalist here who participated in the action I took. When I was the Deputy Minister for Trade, and I remember the small rice importers petitioned the Minister of Trade to lift a ban which was imposed by Honorable Harun Idris when he was the Minister for Trade. Now let me explain. The small rice importers, they bring the rice through the borders. The big rice importers import them. So the state can easily check. When you bring them to the harbors, you can't take them out without paying the necessary duties. And it takes time for them to import, because even if they import, they want to bring, it takes months, because it has to come through. The small rice import, they bring them in every day. Now, when they petitioned that we should lift the ban, the minister asked me to set up a committee so that we can do our independent investigation. Godfred, the committee was chaired by Mr. Kofi Kapito, a leading member of NPP. You know, he represents the consumer interest. Why are you calling him a leading member of NPP? But he is a leading member of NPP. He is. And he has never hidden that. So he represents the consumer interest group something. You know, yes. Good. Your Moses, your journalist, my good friend, the fair one, he was part. When they did the investigation and came, they presented the report and said, look, the ban should be maintained. Now, the ban being maintained, the people financed the NPP campaign. This minister lifted the ban. So that explains why we had to move from $500 million importation of rice and poultry products to over $2 billion. You
mean Alan Samatani
lifted the ban? He lifted the ban without any justification
of rice.
The small rice importers, I don't mean this. He lifted the ban. Another thing that is corruption, and we. The time is up. No, I beg you, it's 30 seconds. No, in reference to what Doctor just said, I beg you, it's important. It's important for this discussion. I need to give Kamal. No, just Kamal. I beg you, 30 seconds. Kamal, you know, the revenue. I'm taking a break. Kamal will give me. Kamal, the revenue mobilization. Oh, Godfred. Will be right back. Godfred.
Welcome back. Final throws. Looking at former President John Dramani Mahama's.
Oh, Alassane.
His name is Alassane.
No, under this economic association, we even forget names.
Anyway, come on, your take on what the former president outlined as some of his proposals.
Godfrey.
Yes.
So when are we as a country and as a people going to stop these lamentations?
When politicians begin to
Mutala, no, Mutala, please. I am. You see, let's get serious and then speak to ensuring that our economy, whether in the hands of the MPP or in the hands of the NDC, is something that will inure to the benefit of us all. Godfred, 1965, was the first time we began and set off as a country to seek for assistance from the Bretton Woods institutions. The first time was in 1965, when we sought to run to IMF after the colonial masters had bequeathed whatever we have for us and then left. Then Kwame Nkrumah did what he wanted to do, and by 1965 there was a depletion. Then we decided that let's run to IMF quickly, or World Bank to help us. 1965. Since then, we've been to IMF averagely every 4 years as a country. 17 times. So averagely, we have been to IMF every single 4 years from 1965. And Godfred, this is not a time for us to sit down and say MPP has this achievement, NDC has that achievement. We've been at it for so long, and we are still where we are. Vicious cycle. That common Ghanaian who is affected, is not listening to what NDC will say, MPP will say. So that when John Dramani Mahama speaks, he has spoken as a statesman. When President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, inshallah, tomorrow speaks, he will speak as a statesman. When we come to sit here, let us not try to play on the emotions of people as if it was keyboards. For it to sound good to us. You see?
Stop playing us.
No, please, I beg you. Let's have a discussion. This is a very serious matter. If we do not, as a people, get things right, we will end up using this NDC, MPP, and this economy will be where it is. Mustala has made great contributions when he spoke about importation of rice and how much we're spending on importation of rice. Great. I concur with him. And of course, I associate myself to some of these comments that we make. To what extent can we nip this in the bud? So that rice that, of course, is stored in Vietnam or in Taiwan for 25 years is what we are eating in this country. People farm a lot there, and they have some of them serve for 5 years, 6 years. It's in a warehouse. Sometimes even maybe expired. I'm not a nutritionist, but of course I may have to say this. And that's the rice that will come and serve on our table for us to eat. When in fact it's at the expense of that common farmer in Fubisi. That my village farmer in Nantong area who has got a rice farm. Why? In 2018, under the Akufo-Addo, we had glut of rice in this country. Nobody was buying. Glut. 2018, 2019. You reported it. To the extent that it took some mess and co to advocate for the buying of what they name local rice. Some mess advocated strongly, and others. I myself associated myself. So, what is now the issue? The issue is not about policy. The issue is about we entirely also having taste for foreign goods. Personally, I don't know of anywhere. I go to North, and when I'm coming from Nasia, I buy my local rice and come. I come home, with all respect to my wife, but of course, my wife tells me, no, I'll cook that one for you, but I'm going to cook my perfume rice. Then I go like, really? And my brother Farouk joins here. They don't enjoy this. The taste is not good for them. I said, really? I said, okay. So I forced myself to the extent that I got to a time where when I go for groceries, I don't buy, what's the name? Foreign rice. Because if you will not, then I'll come. That's the only rice there. If you eat it, if you not, it's fine. If you want, also go and buy your foreign rice and come and cook. And I'm using mine as an example because many families may be going through what I am going through in my house. And it is inimical to the growth of ourselves as a people. Why? Rice is not even our staple in the first place. When I was young, up north, scarcely will you see even rice cooked in your house. The day they will cook rice is like celebration. TZ is our staple. And it is maize, corn. He makes a good point that, look, today, farmers are even departing from farming corn, which is your staple, which is your food. Meanwhile, sadly, you are even peasant farmers. Because 90% of the people in my constituency, for instance, are peasant farmers. Okay, and then they have all stopped this peasant farming, which is supposed to feed them. Then they go and be farming soya bean. In the name that one they will sell it to some Indian company. That Indian company will buy it and take it out because that one is organic. There is no fertilizer in it. They are good to enjoy that. Then they will bring us some rice that is about 25 years, which is have no nutrition. Then we eat and fill our stomach and sit down there and with bloated stomachs, we are here gluten. I'm getting serious about this. And you see, that is what President Mahama can speak. And I listened to him well. When he espoused the idea of Operation Feed Yourself, about Achampong and even mentioned Danlate, it has always been my stance. Sadly, we sit here. Local chicken is so delicious. We go to Holland with $600 million to import frozen chicken as a country. And that businessman, and I'm going to say it without mincing words, that businessman is there ready to sponsor NDC to come to power, ready to sponsor MPP to come to power. When you come to power, you can't stop them from importing. That is exactly what is happening. We go to them to sponsor our elections. The man has given you something. You, after winning your election, will you have the balls to go and say there's a policy to stop him from working? You don't. So, for me, even with the opposition, we had what we call the real state of the nation address when His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo was in opposition. He addressed it. Dr. Bawumia was speaking. Today, NDC is in opposition.
Building the Ghana we want.
Exactly. Building the Ghana we want. So, we are going to continue on this tangent. Okay? At the end of the day, Ghana suffers a blitz. And I'm saying that it's about time. And President Akufo-Addo started something. I wish he had continued properly. When he came into office, and I actually commended that action, he invited all the former presidents to a roundtable discussion at the presidency. And his issue with them was that, look, what can we do to hold hands together so that we can have a common direction to develop in this country? As to whether it has been pursued or not is another matter. But that was a great move. He didn't stop there. He invited the political parties, general secretaries and chairmen. They sat down and said, look, let us have a commonality. As to whether it has been pursued is another matter. I thought that would have been a turning point. And getting all of us involved so that we can have a national development planning understanding on rice production, understanding on certain non-essential goods that we import in this country. How can we sit here and somebody will have the gut to import drinking water into Ghana? This water, people are importing what they drink at the expense of our economy. Toothpick, when we have abundance of bamboo in this country, we are importing it at our expense. So that when the tail end of President John Dramani Mahama's speech was had, let us all resort to Gobe, or even the Gobe eaters are helping the economy, I could not have agreed with him the more.
When was the last time you
I am saying, just yesterday I ate Gobe.
Are you sure?
You see, so I am saying that I could not have agreed with him the more. The point is that these are all ideas, but these are things we keep on saying. But we keep saying them, and then because talk is cheap, we resort to talk, and then the action is actually put somewhere. Why? President Mahama has handled the affairs of this country before. He has been an economy, and I'm happy that he cited Commander's Sugar Factory, which I noted down. And then he said that was what triggered our idea of bringing wine DYF. It is falsehood anyway. But I want to say that President Mahama in the affairs of this economy, or handling the affairs of this economy, is on record to have told us that, look, 73% of the money that he mobilizes for this country goes into payment of salaries. Yeah. He's on record to have said that. That tells you that it is bad. And that is still the trend, please. And that is still the trend and reason why today we are having to blame this government that we are borrowing for consumption. We are borrowing for consumption because the way we handle our public officials. Look, go to Rwanda, go to Botswana, go to other countries who are doing well, and compare the payment given to their public officials and allowances, and come to us who have nothing. We are paying higher. We are spending much money on V8. We are spending money on fuel. We are giving people allowances needlessly. One don't even make bonus. Look, I have always made argument that SOEs. I have 7 SOE boss. I have 7 boss and currently 7 on top. Okay, but I'm saying no. Please.
What?
Yes.
Hey, come on, you want to show us I have to fight with you.
Let me finish up. I see. I'm making a point.
Hold on, because you hold on. Come on, this is my 1D, 1F. Listed there is sent to. It's an oil refinery.
I know about
next door to top.
I'm aware.
Can you imagine?
Mr. Shu, I even know the owner, the one building it. Don't worry.
Can you imagine?
See, and there's a history to it, but I'll come to it.
And you allowed it.
Oh, please. I'm saying there's a history to it. Let me let you understand something.
We'll deal with it.
Well, first of all, I will let you understand something. But I'm saying that I'm making a point. We have SOEs, and we are not concentrating on those SOEs being productive, but rather we are rather paying their workers higher. When production is not high and there's no revenue raked in, how do you pay the person more than what you have been getting? And this has been the trend, whether it's NDC or MPP. And these are facts.
It has worsened.
I am saying that these are facts.
Ministers, you increase the
no, I say we did that. Excuse me. We did that. Where are we today? Well, I'm saying we did it where? Oh no, please. We did it. Where are we today? If at the end of the day you came up with huge numbers, okay, and then today we have reduced those numbers, it means that yes, indeed, the cry out there had been listened to. So you see, to wrap up, I want to say that the man sits here and then poo-poo 1D, 1F. And I think that is very sad.
No, he didn't.
He said the implementation of SAVE is a problem.
Form of it, we have a problem with.
The idea is good. Good. But the implementation of SAVE is what he has a problem.
Your style of it is what he disagrees
on the bit
with.
of tax evasion that he's looking at, or tax, if you like,
not tax evasion.
Not tax evasion per se, but
do you want me to explain?
Please. On the bit of tax exemptions that he's talking about, and which of course I agree with him again. But I'm saying that yes, that idea alone was an excellent idea, and for us today to have said that, look, we have been able to make an environment conducive for people to set up factories and start production. Look, it is a process and not an event, and will continue to help us out as it were. Why? Commander Sugar Factory, what happened? What is the history of
this?
Today, as we speak, where is Commander Sugar Factory? Is it operational? No, because there are enormous challenges under him. He was a trade minister. He knows. Look, my brother, don't do this. I am saying that there are even the implementation of SAVE was really not proper. To the extent that people have to go to the market, buy sugar, come and lie to us that there was sugar coming from the factory. Because they want to win election. I'm telling you, under him, he knows that. You go and buy sugar, come and tell lies that this sugar was manufactured in Ghana. Under them, they did it. So you see, I am saying that yesterday or today, it is wrong. I am saying yesterday or today,
how the cracking was
I am saying they bought.
He should apologize.
Look, I'm not apologizing. I am not apologizing. I'm saying you bought sugar. You bought sugar. Please forget about it. You bought sugar only to come and tell us that this is sugar comes from cocoa. But today, where is sugar factory? Now to end. Now Agrek,
the moral right and courage to play.
Agrek is a very important. Agrek is a very important aspect of our economy. I've always maintained that look, without Agrek, we are nowhere. And I'm happy you cited this central matter.
Let's go to your talk.
I have a friend who's a Chinese. Came to this country, told me that he's come uniquely to acquire land, which he has actually gotten it. Now, as we speak, he has got 200,000 acres of land just to do rice. A Chinese man. Then I asked him, how do you say no? In clusters. Goes to this place, he gets some. Go to that place, he gets Chinese man. And after he spoke to me, I cringed and I was like, So we sit in this country, even if individuals have no money to do it, can't we institute what we call state farms? That the state can have over 400,000, 500,000, in fact 1 million acres of rice farm.
I have a farm.
I'm saying, please. You see, I am looking at we finding solutions dearly to ourselves. Can't we do that? So they take a Chinese man who is now coming to farm here and feed us again. And are we serious? We cannot be serious with this. No, Agrek under us, when we came, what we did was that subsidy on cereals. Cereals like maize, rice, and all that he farms. The subsidy on them for fertilizer was taken away under the NDC. It was. It's a fact because it was taken away. What they did was that they look at the cash crop,
even especially
not for sale. They look at the cash crop, especially the cocoa, and brought in fertilizers and said that one we have exempted, that we have subsidized it, and therefore they shouldn't even buy it.
But we are selling them.
They did that. But when it comes to cereal, what actually will help us domestically to eat and live? These people took away the subsidy, and we came and gave 50% subsidy. And that brought about the bumper harvest and the glut that's in the system. I'm telling you, under us, under planning for food and job. So if you don't understand it, you don't understand. But I think the economy, like I said, to end we will go this back and forth if we don't solve this problem.
Thank you, Martin Pebu. My name is Godfred Akoto Boafo. Have a good weekend.